Chapter 502. Throw oneself into disarray. The Eastern Sky King was furious. He turned around and shouted at the Southern Sky King. Southern Sky King, are you looking for a fight? How dare you hurt my son? Oof, your son is useless. I help you teach him a lesson. Shouldn't you thank me? The Southern Sky King did not back down. After all, it was the Eastern Sky King who injured his son first. Well, you hurt my son, and you still think you're in the right. Come. This old man will exchange a few moves with you today. Let's see if you've neglected your skills after so many years. The Eastern Sky King was so angry that his beard stood up, and he wanted to settle the score with the Southern Sky King. Suddenly, the West Heaven King sarcastically said, "You two are fighting each other here. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by the younger generation? Don't forget what His Majesty ordered us to do. His Majesty has ordered that anyone who wants to pass the 3 stages must pass through the 4 of us. If you don't have the ability, then get out of the arena." Among the 4 heavenly kings, except for the silent Northern Heavenly King, the West Heavenly King was undoubtedly the most ruthless one. Before the other heavenly kings attacked their sons, the West Heavenly King had no such scruples. The first thing he did was to attack his own children, which were the young masters and young ladies of the West King's Mansion. Puff, puff, puff. The young masters of the West King Mansion were unable to resist. Even though one of them was an expert in the 7th level of the Martial King realm, they were still beaten back by the West King and vomited blood. When the other warriors saw that the West Heaven King was so cruel that he even killed his own children, hundreds of warriors, including Yi Fei, hurriedly left the martial arts practice field at the fastest speed. The 4 heavenly kings had no intention of chasing and attacking. They just crossed their arms and coldly stared outside, like 4 wolves staring at a flock of sheep. It's actually for real. It's over. The difficulty of the Earth ranking this time is too high. That's right. There are 4 heavenly kings standing guard here. Even a magnificent army wouldn't be able to charge in. How can we possibly beat them? Humph, a bunch of trash. So what if they're the 4 heavenly kings? His Majesty didn't say that we must defeat them. Even if we can't beat them, can't we think of a way to get past them? There were also warriors who thought of ways to deal with the 4 heavenly kings. Upon hearing this suggestion, Yi Fei was also moved. He felt that this idea was not bad. In the end, they were facing invincible martial kings this time. In a head-on confrontation, not to mention 100 martial kings, even if there were 100 more, it would still be a dead end. However, if they could join forces and target one of the heavenly kings. Yi Fei, the eldest princess and the 4th prince, asked me to invite you over. Qin Bing walked over from afar. Zhu Zhen and Bai Gongchun nodded at Yi Fei at the same time. Seeing their actions, Yi Fei suddenly understood something. He knew that Zhu Zhen and Bai Gongchun might be planning to join forces with him. Although their attitudes were a bit arrogant, this was not the time to be calculative. With my strength, I might be able to deal with an ordinary 10th layer martial emperor, but I will definitely lose if I face an undefeatable 10th layer heavenly king. Why don't I team up with the 4th prince and the others and break through first? Thus, Yi Fei nodded in a friendly manner and strode out. Greetings, 4th prince and eldest princess. His attitude was very courteous. This made Zhu Zhen and Bai Gongchun very satisfied. Thus, they abandoned their hostility towards Yi Fei. The 4th prince Zhu Zhen was the first to speak. Yi Fei, you have seen the current situation. With the strength of any one of us, we are unable to fight against the 4 heavenly kings. The only way now is for us to join forces. Are you willing to join us? Yi Fei did not immediately nod. Instead, he asked in a deep voice, "What do you plan to do?" Zhu Zhen's face was somewhat unhappy. He was a prince of a big country. It was good enough that he was willing to lower his status and befriend Yi Fei. In the end, Yi Fei was a bit cold and indifferent. What else can we do? If we gather the strength of 100 people and attack only 1 heavenly king, we will only be able to open a small gap. With the strength of you, me, and the 4th prince, the 3 of us will have no problem passing the 3rd stage. Bai Gongchun was very direct. Yi Fei's expression changed. Are you planning to sacrifice everyone to create an opportunity for the three of us to break out of the encirclement? Success is built on the bones of a general. If we don't do this, none of us will be able to pass the third stage. Besides, the Earth leaderboard has been going on for so long. Do you think that other than the three of us, the others have a chance of winning? Zhu Zhan said coldly. Yi Fei immediately fell silent. Even though he felt that Zhu Zhan's method was a little selfish, there was no doubt that this was the only way at present. Besides, from the looks of Zhu Zhan and Bai Gongchun, they should have already convinced the others. There was nothing for him to object to. Yi Fei nodded and said, "All right, I can join you, but you have to change your plan." Change? How do you want to change it? Zhu Zhan and Bai Gongchun's expressions turned ugly. They felt that Yi Fei was being too arrogant. Even if he was talented, this was the capital of Beiyang. "Don't tell me you want to take over our command," Zhu Zhan added in a bad mood. "That's exactly what I was thinking," Yi Fei said without hesitation. "You?" This was the first time Zhu Zhan had seen Yi Fei being such a pain in the neck. He didn't know how to retort. Bai Gongchun also stared coldly at Yi Fei. He held back his anger and said, "How do you want to change it?" Yi Fei didn't mind the cold attitude of the two. He continued speaking with assurance. "Your plan is very good, but there is still a loophole. That is, even if 100 of us were to join forces, we might not have complete confidence in breaking through the encirclement of any of the heavenly kings. And if we fail to break through, what awaits us would be complete annihilation." These words made Zhu Zhan and Bai Gongchun's expressions turn extremely ugly. Clearly, Yi Fei's worries weren't without reason. In fact, even if they joined forces with everyone, Zhu Zhan and Bai Gongchun weren't confident in breaking through the encirclement of the four heavenly kings. "Even if we aren't confident, we still have to give it a try." Zhu Zhan gritted his teeth. He seemed to have made up his mind. As long as they could pass the 3 stages, they would be able to obtain victory on the Earth roll. No one would be willing to return empty-handed at this time. Yi Fei couldn't do it either. Therefore, he had to formulate a detailed and foolproof battle plan. Sensing that Zhu Zhan's plan was a little risky, Yi Fei pointed it out without holding back. "No, if we don't have complete confidence, not only will we not be able to pass the stages, but we will also be ridiculed by the heavenly kings and looked down upon by the Lord." Yi Fei's concerns were also what Zhu Zhan and Bai Gongchun were most worried about. As she watched Yi Fei speak with assurance, Bai Gongchun suddenly realized something. She looked at Yi Fei curiously and said, "Yi Fei, it seems like you already have a foolproof plan." "I wouldn't dare say that I have a foolproof plan, but I don't know if you have heard of this before. No matter how strong a fortress is, it has to be breached from the inside. We have no chance of winning against the 4 heavenly kings, but if we can think of a way to make them panic." Humph. Chapter 503. Passing the 3 stages. The 3 of them discussed for a while. Zhu Zhan and Bai Gongchun no longer raised any objections. Instead, they quickly gathered all the warriors present. Yi Fei explained the situation to them. After hearing Yi Fei's plan, Zhu Zhan and Bai Gongchun had already given up on competing with Yi Fei. Instead, they took a step back at the same time. This also shocked all the young sky prides who had gathered. What did the 4th prince and princess royal mean by this? Did they actually want Yi Fei to be the leader? However, no one dared to raise any objections. After all, Yi Fei's talent and realm were there for all to see. Qinbing was the closest to Yi Fei. He asked curiously, "Yi Fei, just give the order. We're all prepared to be cannon fodder." Obviously, before discussing with Yi Fei, Zhu Zhan and Bai Gongchun had already explained the situation to these warriors and obtained their consent. Yi Fei no longer had any concerns. He immediately whispered to Qin Bing and the warriors present, "We'll only attack the Western Heavenly King. We don't need to care about anything else. Now, I need a few volunteers to carry out my plan." Ha! It seems that this group of little fellows is still unwilling to give up. They actually plan to join forces and break through the defense of the 4 heavenly kings. They're just overestimating themselves. Let them come at me. If they can make me take a step back, I'll admit defeat. In the end, The northern heavenly king still did not speak. He only looked at Yi Fei with interest. He still could not understand why the monarch valued this young man so much. Was it just because of his talent? Do you understand? This is our plan. At this moment, Yi Fei also explained his plan in detail to this group of young sky prides. No one objected. On the contrary, many people looked at Yi Fei with admiration. TSK. This Yi Fei is not simple. Not only is he talented, but his strategy is also so terrifying. Is this the legendary combination of wisdom and courage? The Bai clan is in for a treat now. Who could they have offended? Yet they chose to offend Brother Yi. After a round of discussion and cooperation, the geniuses present no longer regarded Yi Fei as an outsider. Instead, they placed Yi Fei on the same level as the fourth prince, Zhu Zhen, and Bai Gongchun. Therefore, when Yi Fei gave the order, no one hesitated. They roared angrily and charged toward the four heavenly kings' camp again. Yi Fei, Zhu Zhen, and Bai Gongchun were at the forefront. They even ignored the other three heavenly kings and rushed towards the coldest western heavenly king. There was a flash of anger on the West Heaven King's face. Although he had expected that these juniors would unite, he did not expect that they would choose to attack him first. You overestimate yourself. Scram! A storm-like aura appeared on the Western Heavenly King's body. Suddenly, it formed a terrifying storm and was slapped out by the Western Heavenly King. The other three Heavenly Kings also shook their heads. The Southern Heavenly King said, "You still don't learn your lesson. If you don't attack us, do you think we won't attack you?" The Eastern Heavenly King also sighed and said, "It seems that this is the end. I really don't know what the monarch is thinking. With the four of us guarding here, how can these juniors break through? Let's do it. His Majesty has ordered us to do our best. None of us, the four Heavenly Kings, can hold back." The Northern Heavenly King, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke. The other Heavenly Kings were also secretly shocked. They no longer dared to hold back. Even if they could not bear to hurt their own children, the four Heavenly Kings could still stagger their attacks and block each other's children. The warriors who were trying to break through quickly noticed that the aura of the four Heavenly Kings had changed. Many people exclaimed, "Oh no, the four Heavenly Kings are going to join forces." Don't worry, they won't join forces. It's good enough that they don't have internal strife. Brothers, please. Yi Fei suddenly roared. Ha! No problem, no problem. Brother Yi, fourth prince, princess royal, just watch us. Our strength is not as good as yours, but we don't believe that our own fathers will bear to injure us. The three of you will go first. Although we're cannon fodder, it's still an honor to join forces and break through the blockade of the four Heavenly Kings. Following Yi Fei's voice, the young masters and young mistresses of the four Heavenly Kings' manors all scattered and began to gather together. Suddenly, they fearlessly rushed towards the Eastern Heavenly King, who was the fastest. The Eastern Heavenly King was shocked. He was going all out this time. It was not a problem to hurt the children of the other Heavenly Kings. However, if they really hurt his own children, he really couldn't bear to do it. Among them, the Southern Heavenly King, who was eager to protect his children, was even more furious. This was because when he sent out a palm strike toward the Eastern Heavenly King's son, the Southern Heavenly King's son suddenly swapped positions with the Eastern Heavenly King's son. This suddenly turned into two Heavenly Kings attacking their own children at the same time. The two Heavenly Kings were so frightened that their faces changed. No matter how cold-blooded they were, it was impossible for them to hurt their own children. After shouting, "Oh no," the two Heavenly Kings quickly withdrew their attacks and began to feel a little overwhelmed. The Northern Heavenly King did not have such concerns. In this place, he only had one child, and that was Bai Gongchun. At this time, Bai Gongchun rushed towards the Western Heavenly King. Without any worries, the Northern Heavenly King shook his head and attacked with a sneer. "Your plan is not bad, but unfortunately, it's full of loopholes. You underestimated this Heavenly King. Father-in-law, please spare my life." Suddenly, Just as the Northern Heavenly King was about to attack, Qin Bing took the initiative to rush forward and said something that almost made the Northern Heavenly King vomit blood. Could this kid in front of him be Beigong Chun's sweetheart? If he hurt him with his daughter's strong personality, she would fight him to the death. The Northern Heavenly King suddenly hesitated, and his hand movements slowed down a little. In the instant he hesitated, Yi Fei, Zhu Zhen, and Beigong Chun quickly broke through his blockade and rushed towards the last Western Heavenly King. This made the Northern Heavenly King cry out that he had been tricked, and he sent Qin Bing and the others flying with a kick. But before the Northern Heavenly King could chase after them and face the Western Heavenly King, Yi Fei suddenly stopped and took a step back, making way for the Western Heavenly King's sons behind him. Please, watch us. Although our father is ruthless, we don't believe that he will not save us after seeing us self-destruct. These sons of the Western Heavenly King were indeed ruthless. They rushed towards the Western Heavenly King, and without saying a word, the aura of their bodies had become violent. It was the Western Heavenly King's residence, a kind of suicidal violent martial art. The Western Heavenly King was indeed the most ruthless of the four Heavenly Kings, but it was only limited to teaching his children a lesson. At this time, when he saw that his sons were about to commit suicide without saying a word, no matter how ruthless he was, the Western Heavenly King began to panic. He cursed angrily. "You bastards! Are you trying to kill me? Stop right now." Boom. Chapter 504. Lin Tianjiao. Without the obstruction of the four Heavenly Kings, Yi Fei, Zhu Zhen, Beigong Chun, and more than 50 lucky martialists managed to break through the blockade and reach the bronze door guarded by the four Heavenly Kings. Only then did the four Heavenly Kings realize that they had been tricked by Yi Fei. They were so angry that their faces turned ashen. They cursed angrily. Who the hell came up with such a treacherous idea? This is clearly an opportunistic trick. Sai, we've been tricked. However, it's easy to pass this trial, but the trial behind the bronze door isn't something that can be passed with mere trickery. The Northern Heavenly King, Eastern Sky King, and Southern Sky King sighed at the same time. They did not make a move and allowed the fourth prince, Zhu Zhen, to slowly push the bronze door open. Creak! The bronze door opened slowly, but no one dared to enter. This was because there was another person inside. It was a youth in white with his back facing them. The youth did not turn around, but Zhu Zhen and Beigong Chun recognized him immediately. The white-clothed sage king, Lin Tianjiao. What? The person guarding the bronze door is Lin Tianjiao? The martialists who had rushed to the bronze door were all shocked. Who is Lin Tianjiao? Only Yi Fei had a puzzled expression on his face. He looked at the young man who had just turned around. He was in his early 30s and could also be considered part of the younger generation. But why was it that when the name Lin Tianjiao was mentioned, Zhu Zhen and Beigong Chun's voices trembled? There seemed to be a trace of fear. When they realized that the person inside was Lin Tianjiao, Zhu Zhen, who had just stepped in, retracted his foot in fear. Beigong Chun's face was also filled with fear. Lin Tianjiao, one of the four great geniuses of the northern region. He is a true king of a younger generation. Ever since Lin Tianjiao was born, he has never tasted defeat. Even the four Heavenly Kings are no match for him. This is the final test that the king has given you. If you defeat Lin Tianjiao, you will be ranked first on the Earth board. The Northern Heavenly King's voice rang out coldly, as if he was trying to help Yi Fei explain. Yi Fei was shocked. Ever since he was born, he had never tasted defeat, and he was one of the four great geniuses of the northern region. Even the four Heavenly Kings were no match for him. This person's resume was simply too shocking. It was no wonder that someone as prideful as Zhu Zhen and Beigong Chun couldn't help but feel fear when they saw this person. This was a true genius who was already standing at the top of the younger generation in the northern region. It was no wonder that his back was enough to make many people tremble in fear. What? You want us to defeat Lin Tianjiao, who is even more powerful than an invincible martial king? How is that possible? The Earth roll this time is too difficult. Lin Tianjiao is invincible in the entire northern region. How can we beat him? It's over. We're all doomed to be eliminated this time. Many martial artists started to feel depressed. The fourth prince, Zhu Zhen and Bai Gongchun, looked at Lin Tianjiao with increasingly solemn eyes. Lin Tianjiao, were you invited by my father? Zhu Zhen asked in a low voice. That's right. Lin Tianjiao, are you trying to stop us? Bai Gongchun's face was filled with solemnity. Stop you? With just the two of you? Lin Tianjiao's face flashed with a cold smile. He didn't make a move, nor did he have any aura around him. He was just standing there naturally, but he was already giving off immense pressure. Under this pressure, a portion of the martial artists felt that they couldn't fight against Lin Tianjiao. They retreated step by step until they were completely out of the range of the bronze door. This also meant that they had all given up on the earth roll test and were willing to admit defeat. From a beginning to the end, Lin Tianjiao hadn't even lifted a finger. Out of the 50 martial artists present, 47 of them were scared witless by Lin Tianjiao and voluntarily admitted defeat. Only Zhu Zhen and Bai Gongchun stood at the entrance of the bronze door with uncertain expressions. Yi Fei also stood there without moving, looking at Lin Tianjiao with fear. Feeling Yi Fei's gaze, Lin Tianjiao finally turned his head and looked at Yi Fei. 6th level Martial King Realm. You actually didn't retreat. Not bad, not bad. Unfortunately, the gap between us is too big. Although I promised the king of the Northern Ocean to help him test you, it seems that it's no longer necessary. There are no experts in the Northern Ocean. There are no experts in the Northern Ocean. The retreating martial artists pondered these words. Many of them felt their faces burning, but no one refuted them. This was because Lin Tianjiao was the strongest king of the younger generation in the entire northern region. Who dares to fight with me? Lin Tianjiao asked impatiently. He had waited here for a long time, but all he got were a bunch of cowards. This was undoubtedly a waste of his time. How about this? I'll stand here, and all of you can attack me at the same time. If I take a step back, I lose. Lin Tianjiao stood with his hands behind his back. He signaled Zhu Zhen, Bai Gongchun, Yi Fei, and everyone else to attack him together. As long as he could make Yi Fei take a step back, it would be his defeat. How domineering, how confident. Yi Fei's heart was suddenly filled with a strong battle intent. Looking at Lin Tianjiao, who was as majestic as a mountain, the fourth prince, Zhu Zhen, showed a rare look of struggle and helplessness. Bai Gongchun smiled bitterly. With our strength, we can't even defeat a heavenly king. How can we defeat a genius like you? Lin Tianjiao, you win. I admit defeat. I admit defeat too. Zhu Zhen lowered his head and gritted his teeth. He was unwilling to admit defeat, but unfortunately, he was facing Lin Tianjiao. No matter how unwilling he had to bow his head. Lin Tianjiao was even more disappointed. However, he did not look down on Zhu Zhen and Bai Gongchun. After all, it took a lot of courage to make such a decision. What about you? What will you do? Will you fight or bow your head? Me? Yi Fei laughed. When Zhu Zhen and Bai Gongchun stepped back unwillingly, he did not stop and walked through the bronze door. I will never admit defeat. You want to fight? Lin Tianjiao was shocked. Even Zhu Zhen and Bai Gongchun, who were at the peak of the 9th layer Martial King realm, were defeated by him. I want to fight. Yi Fei was serious. Outside the bronze door, there was silence. Everyone stared at Yi Fei and Lin Tianjiao. They could not believe that Yi Fei would still choose to fight knowing that he was no match for Lin Tianjiao. Yi Fei, are you crazy? You are only at the 6th layer Martial King realm. You can't even defeat a heavenly king. How dare you challenge a genius like Lin Tianjiao? The Northern Heavenly King could not stand it anymore. In his opinion, Lin Tianjiao was not on the same level as Yi Fei. Yi Fei was basically asking for a beating by challenging Lin Tianjiao. In the northern region, there are many young men who are defeated by Lin Tianjiao, losing their talents. Yi Fei, you have to think carefully. Zhu Zhen and Bai Gongchun transmitted their voices to Yi Fei at the same time. This was the reason why they chose to back off. They did not want to be defeated by Lin Tianjiao. Yi Fei knew that Zhu Zhen and Bai Gongchun meant well, but he did not back off. He calmly asked, Guys, tell me, what is the most important thing for a cultivator? Courage and confidence. If we don't even have these two things, then wouldn't our cultivation of the martial Tao be dull and boring? Chapter 505. Lin Tianjiao fight with me? The fourth prince Zhu Zhen, Beigong Chun, Qin Bing, the young masters and young mistresses of the various heavenly kings' residences, and everyone present, including the four heavenly kings, looked at Yi Fei in shock. This kid is crazy. He knows that he's no match for Lin Tianjiao, yet he still wants to challenge him? The Eastern Sky King couldn't help but exclaim. No, Yi Fei isn't crazy. We're the ones who are crazy. To think that we call ourselves geniuses. If we don't even have the courage to face Lin Tianjiao, then what's the point of being geniuses? Father, is this what you want to tell me? The fourth prince Zhu Zhen looked into the depths of the palace. Realization and shame flashed across his eyes. Beigong Chun's face also revealed a bitter expression. She knew that after this incident, they had been completely defeated by Yi Fei. However, Beigong Chun couldn't bring herself to hate Yi Fei. After all, when everyone was frightened by Lin Tianjiao's name and completely lost their will to fight, it was Yi Fei who stood out bravely. It was him, an outsider, who saved the last shred of dignity for the Northern Ocean country's geniuses. You really want to fight with me? I'm a 10th level martial king. Even the four heavenly kings of your Northern Ocean country are no match for me. Are you sure you can withstand my attack? Lin Tianjiao finally looked straight at Yi Fei and sized him up. Is one's cultivation level very important? Yi Fei suddenly asked a seemingly unrelated question, causing many people to be stunned. Lin Tianjiao's eyes lit up as he looked deeply at Yi Fei. He suddenly laughed and said, "Ha ha, interesting. You're indeed very courageous. Since you want to fight with me, then I'll fulfill your wish. At the same time, I'll let you know what a true young genius is." Boom! Without any warning, Lin Tianjiao suddenly attacked. He only pushed out a palm wind across the air, but the huge pressure caused the entire palace to shake. Apart from the four heavenly kings, all the cultivators present, including Zhu Zhen and Beigong Chun, turned pale and were forced to retreat dozens of steps. This was just a casual palm wind from Lin Tianjiao, but its power was already so terrifying. Zhu Zhen and Beigong Chun's faces turned even paler. We are all young warriors, but the gap between us and Lin Tianjiao is too big. The title of White Robe Sage King is not a joke. This time, Yi Fei is in for it. If he goes against a genius like Lin Tianjiao head-on, he might be completely destroyed. Being abused is secondary. What I fear the most is that Lin Tianjiao will shatter my confidence. If a martial artist's confidence in martial arts is shattered, then no matter how talented he is, he will not have any achievements in the future. His Lin Tianjiao is actually so terrifying. No wonder so many older generation warriors don't dare to fight him when they hear his name. Hearing the discussions around him, Lin Tianjiao didn't feel proud. Instead, a serious look flashed across his face. He could understand that the four heavenly kings could resist his palm wind. But what was up with this person in front of him? A mere six-layer martial king was able to block his attack, even if it was just a casual attack. This kid didn't retreat from Lin Tianjiao's palm wind. As the wind blew, the four heavenly kings widened their eyes in shock. What? Yi Fei blocked Lin Tianjiao's attack. The martial artists present were in an uproar. Is this how a young genius should be? Lin Tianjiao, show me your full strength. I don't need you to go easy on me. Yi Fei continued to walk towards Lin Tianjiao coldly. Every step he took was like a huge war drum beating on the ground. The four heavenly kings suddenly fell silent. Zhu Zhen and Beigong Chun also fell silent. Everyone present could feel Yi Fei's rock-solid belief and fighting spirit. I never admit defeat. Some of the martial artists recalled the first words Yi Fei said to Lin Tianjiao. The more they thought about it, the more ashamed they became. Interesting. It seems that after waiting for so long, I, Lin Tianjiao, have finally met a decent opponent. What is your name? Lin Tianjiao asked with a serious look. Yi Fei, Yi Fei said coldly. Very good. I will remember you. I hope you will remember me too. Remember that I, Lin Tianjiao, defeated you. As Lin Tianjiao spoke, his cultivation level suddenly dropped rapidly. It only stopped when he reached LV6 Martial King realm. Yi Fei, you are qualified to fight with me at the same cultivation level. If you can defeat me, you will be ranked first on the Earth board. If you can't defeat me, the Northern Ocean country will be wiped out. According to my agreement with the king of the Northern Ocean country, I have the right to take all your rewards. Boom! Lin Tianjiao's words shocked everyone. They finally realized how much the king of the Northern Ocean country had paid to invite Lin Tianjiao. At the same time, they were shocked by Lin Tianjiao's actions. He could have used his cultivation level to suppress Yi Fei, but he chose not to do so. Instead, he chose to defeat Yi Fei at the same cultivation level as himself. This showed how arrogant and domineering Lin Tianjiao was. Without absolute confidence in winning, even the four heavenly kings would not have dared to do what Lin Tianjiao did. Heaven and earth, wind and cloud. Following Lin Tianjiao's shout, the battle officially began. Lin Tianjiao first used his true energy to form a giant palm to suppress Yi Fei. At the same time, he wanted to test out Yi Fei's strength. Battle demon golden body. Yi Fei did not back down. His entire body emitted a blazing golden light. In the golden light, Yi Fei's body was filled with explosive power. He punched the sky, causing the sky to shake violently. The heaven and earth, wind and cloud dimmed. How is this possible? What kind of defense does this guy have? He can actually take Lin Tianjiao head on. The four heavenly kings were shocked. It's a pity. Although Yi Fei is strong, Lin Tianjiao is very close to the King Sage realm. Even if he suppresses his cultivation level, he is still invincible among his peers. It's impossible to defeat him. Zhu Zhen and Bai Gongchun shook their heads at the same time. Although they admired Yi Fei's courage, they were not optimistic about Yi Fei's battle. Boom! Boom! The space exploded. Yi Fei's punch shattered Lin Tianjiao's heaven and earth, wind and cloud. His body turned into a golden meteor and rushed towards Lin Tianjiao. The heavenly demon kill formed a huge demonic fist and formed storm. It exploded in all directions, blocking Lin Tianjiao's escape route. However, Lin Tianjiao didn't even try to dodge. Instead, his fleshly body began to glow with a jade-white luster. He waved his right hand, and the dissipating wind and clouds were formed, transforming into an even larger and more terrifying hand that slammed forward. Almost at the same time, Yi Fei and Lin Tianjiao were hit by each other's attacks. Cracking sounds were heard as Yi Fei's battle demon golden body was shattered by Lin Tianjiao's attack. His body was injured to a certain extent. As for Lin Tianjiao, he was also hit by Yi Fei's heavenly demon kill. However, Lin Tianjiao's body did not move at all. His body emitted a white, jade-like luster, blocking Yi Fei's attack. Your physical body is actually so strong. Yi Fei was shocked. He was a little frightened to find that his physical defense was not as good as Lin Tianjiao's at the same cultivation level. You're not bad either. However, if this is what you're relying on, you can lose. Heaven and earth, wind and cloud. Lin Tianjiao snorted coldly. His body suddenly rushed towards Yi Fei like lightning. Lin Tianjiao did not seem to make any movements. However, a destructive intent appeared on his fist and blasted forward. The space in front of Lin Tianjiao immediately shattered like countless broken mirrors. Chapter 506. Heaven and Earth Universe. Lin Tianjiao had originally been standing in front of Yi Fei. However, as he unleashed this peculiar martial technique, Lin Tianjiao's body seemed to have shifted in an instant. It was as if the universe had been reversed as he suddenly appeared behind Yi Fei from in front of him. Rumble. The huge palm, made of true energy, struck down mercilessly, as if it wanted to shatter the space around Yi Fei. Yi Fei's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Lin Tianjiao was too terrifying. He had an invincible physical body, almost instantaneous movement speed, and terrifying attacks. It was no wonder that many martial artists who fought with Lin Tianjiao would lose their faith in martial arts. It was no wonder that the arrogant Zhu Zhen and the strong Bai Gongchun would choose to give up when facing Lin Tianjiao. Yi Fei, you can lose now. Lin Tianjiao was an invincible martial artist. He stood behind Yi Fei with a cold look on his face. His huge palm struck down mercilessly. That might not be the case. Yi Fei shouted. Just as he realized that Lin Tianjiao had changed his position, he stretched out his hand and tore open the space in front of him. He stepped into it. Greater void step. Rumble. Lin Tianjiao's palm, made of true energy, hit the ground, destroying everything in its path. The ground where Yi Fei was standing was turned into dust. However, Lin Tianjiao did not look happy at all. Instead, he looked serious. What martial art is this? It's even more exquisite than my heaven and earth universe. Oh no, you're behind me. Rumble. The space tore open and the situation suddenly reversed. Yi Fei's figure appeared behind Lin Tianjiao silently. Sword chi shot up to the clouds, and killing intent shook the sky. Yi Fei's sword shadow, which was filled with killing intent, fell from the sky and shattered the space. A huge crack appeared in front of everyone's eyes. What a fierce sword intent. However, it's still not enough to defeat me. Heaven and earth overturn. Lin Tianjiao roared furiously. Suddenly, he turned his hands in the opposite direction and slammed them backwards. Two streams of majestic, true yuan formed a huge wave that rushed out in all directions. It was enough to kill an ordinary martial king. The sword shadow in Yi Fei's hand was instantly shattered. The golden body that had just recovered also cracked. However, he was not discouraged. He continued to wave his fingers and activated the heaven-sealing sword. The huge sword shadow formed a terrifying vortex that appeared beside Yi Fei and neutralized Lin Tianjiao's true essence palm. Thunder of heaven and earth. Lin Tianjiao adjusted his posture and suddenly took the initiative to attack Yi Fei with lightning speed. A thunderhawk appeared in the air, roaring and spewing out 10 terrifying bolts of lightning that violently exploded on Yi Fei's body. War demon undying. The demonic might is invincible. Yi Fei roared furiously. His body rose abruptly, and his terrifying fist smashed forward with immense force, shattering the bolts of lightning one after another. However, there were too many bolts of lightning. There were so many that Yi Fei could not shatter them all. At this moment, the Thunderhawk had already swooped down and grabbed at Yi Fei. This time, Yi Fei was not afraid. He soared into the sky and executed the heavenly demon kill to the limit. He smashed the Thunderhawk's head and collided with Lin Tianjiao's body. Boom! It was like two meteorites colliding in the air. Yi Fei vomited blood and was knocked down from the sky. Lin Tianjiao's face was flushed red as he was knocked higher into the sky. However, in general, Lin Tianjiao's physical body was stronger compared to those of the same cultivation level. Relying on this advantage, Lin Tianjiao roared. He suddenly turned into a bolt of lightning and soared into the sky before diving back to the ground. Yi Fei wiped off the bloodstains and stood up abruptly. Thousands of terrifying sword radiances burst out from the cracks of the broken golden body. Finally, these terrifying sword radiances formed a huge sword vortex that rushed towards Lin Tianjiao. Yi Fei, it's useless. The Taishin Holy Land's heaven-sealing sword is no match for my heaven-earth execution. Thunder of heaven and earth, wind and cloud thunder. Terrifying lightning appeared on Lin Tianjiao's body one after another. These lightning bolts were condensed into a huge thunderball that blasted the sword vortex in front of him into pieces. Lin Tianjiao's body once again descended with unparalleled force. The sword radiances on Yi Fei's body became even more dazzling. Since the heaven-sealing sword is no match for you, then have a taste of my heaven-burying sword. He condensed all the sword will in his body to the limit, forming a sword radiance that swept forward. Wherever the sword radiance passed, the world was suppressed as if it was going to be buried by the sword radiance. What sword technique is that? How can it be so terrifying? However, I, Lin Tianjiao, will not be defeated. I am invincible among my peers. I will be invincible. This was not Lin Tianjiao's arrogance, but his belief that he was invincible. He controlled the wind and the clouds and carried the thunder with him. Finally, the wind and clouds howled and the lightning gathered in the sky, forming a strange thunder tribulation cloud. It suppressed and counteracted the influence of the heaven-burying sword. However, it did not matter whether the heaven-burying sword was effective or not. Taking advantage of the short time that Lin Tianjiao was suppressed, a huge black hole appeared above Yi Fei's head. He grasped it with his bare hands and condensed it into a huge black sword that swept out. Crack! 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 The sword radiance formed a ray of light that cut through space, as if it was going to destroy the sky. Lin Tianjiao's face flashed with deep shock. This is an imperial-level sword technique. Unfortunately, it is not complete. As long as it is not complete, it must have a flaw. I have found this flaw. Two purple lightning flashed in Lin Tianjiao's eyes. It was as if he had opened his heavenly eyes. He had actually captured the trajectory of the heaven-swallowing move. He roared, and a white jade light appeared around him. Like an invincible stone puppet king, he grabbed the huge black sword formed by the spatial crack and twisted it. The spatial crack formed by the heaven-swallowing move was shattered by Lin Tianjiao's tyrannical physical body. Yi Fei lost control of his body and was forced to retreat continuously. He had suffered serious internal injuries. Yi Fei, you are strong, but I, Lin Tianjiao, am stronger. Boom! Lin Tianjiao's confident voice came from the sky. He knew that the heaven-swallowing move was probably Yi Fei's strongest move. His face turned cold, and he suddenly looked at Yi Fei with admiration. Yi Fei, I will use my strongest martial art to defeat you now. Reincarnation of heaven and earth. Lin Tianjiao stretched out his palm and slammed it into the sky. Suddenly, a palm of wind and clouds 10 times stronger than before appeared in the sky, bringing with it a terrifying pressure. In the face of such pressure, even the 4 heavenly kings were shocked. They were shocked to find that in the face of this attack, even heavenly kings like them would be seriously injured. How could Yi Fei withstand such an attack? Everyone felt that when Lin Tianjiao's attack landed, Yi Fei would be defeated. Yi Fei's heart flashed with anger. Lin Tianjiao was indeed strong, but he was only strong in the North region. In Middle Ground, there were countless geniuses like Lin Tianjiao. If I can't even defeat Lin Tianjiao, how can I step into Middle Ground in the future and bring my sister back? I haven't lost yet. I still have one last move. The Slayer, Empty Realm Fist. Yi Fei's eyes flashed with madness. Suddenly, a terrifying aura that was completely different from that of a martial artist emerged from his body. That was the aura of an ancient beast seal. That was the battle law of ancient humans. Yi Fei's fist technique suddenly became desolate, resolute, and ancient. Yi Fei threw out a punch. It was silent, but it was suffocating. At this moment, even space showed signs of stagnation. Everyone only saw Yi Fei calmly throw out a punch forward. However, this fist was terrifying. It penetrated Lin Tianjiao's empty realm fist and hit Lin Tianjiao's body. Poof! Blood splattered across the sky. Lin Tianjiao looked at the fist mark on his chest in disbelief. Yi Fei's fist was too strange and terrifying. Not only did it ignore Lin Tianjiao's attack, but it also ignored his defense. It hit Lin Tianjiao's body so powerfully. Facing such a punch, Lin Tianjiao had no idea how to block it. He coughed up blood and fell from the sky. His body slammed heavily into the ground like a meteor, creating a huge crater. Boom! After seriously injuring Lin Tianjiao, Yi Fei did not look happy. He only smiled bitterly and helplessly. The Slayer's empty realm fist was powerful, but it had a fatal weakness. That was While it could ignore all of the opponent's attacks and defenses and cause damage to the opponent, it would also make the user of the Void Realm Fist unable to block the opponent's attack. Chapter 507. Earth Leaderboard ends. The giant palm landed squarely on Yi Fei's body. Yi Fei couldn't help but groan in pain. His entire body was smashed into the ground, and all the bones in his body were shattered. If he hadn't cultivated the Battle Demon Golden Body and had a strong physical body, Lin Tianjiao's attack would have taken his life. Undying Sword Soul, heal me. The moment Yi Fei was seriously injured, he began to roar in his heart, hoping to stimulate the energy of the Undying Sword Soul to quickly heal his injuries. However, the Undying Sword Soul didn't respond to Yi Fei's call. After thinking for a while, he realized that he didn't have any high-grade elixirs that the Undying Sword Soul could absorb. Naturally, he couldn't activate the black energy of the Undying Sword Soul. Oh no, I won't die like this, right? Yi Fei's face darkened. A terrifying thought came to his mind, and he started to panic. What's wrong with this guy? He seems to be seriously injured. Should I save him? In the beast-marked space, the little girl bit her finger, feeling conflicted. However, after thinking for a while, she felt that it was quite comfortable to stay on Yi Fei's body, and there wasn't any danger. If Yi Fei died like this, she might have to move her nest. Hence, the little girl could only grimace and endure the pain. She bit her finger and squeezed out a drop of blood. Then, she made a series of strange gestures in the air. Yi Fei suddenly felt that the ancient beast mark in his body started to glow and heat up. In the end, it formed a whirlpool and started to absorb spiritual energy to heal his injuries. It's the spiritual energy of the flower sage. Yi Fei is still alive. Qin Bing was the first to feel Yi Fei's aura. His face was filled with disbelief. The battle between Yi Fei and Lin Tianjiao was too terrifying. Even a battle between heavenly kings wasn't as terrifying and intense. Especially in the last exchange, Yi Fei's killer Apotheosis Realm Empty Fist was a killing move that would take the enemy down with him. Qin Bing wasn't the only one who was shocked. Even the four heavenly kings were completely shocked by that punch. They thought that Yi Fei and Lin Tianjiao had each taken a blow from the other and died. Flower Saint, you are actually the Flower Saint. No wonder you could survive my attack. Lin Tianjiao spat out a mouthful of blood. His body swayed as he stood up from the rubble. He looked extremely miserable. Yi Fei's punch had taken away half of his life. If it weren't for the fact that Lin Tianjiao was in the LV-10 Martial King realm and had deliberately suppressed part of his cultivation, Yi Fei's punch would have killed any expert in the LV-6 Martial King realm in an instant. Xiao Qiao, you actually saved my life. Yi Fei felt that his body was filled with spiritual energy. With a thought, his undying sword soul successfully absorbed this spiritual energy and released a large amount of black energy, healing his injuries. Lin Tianjiao, let's fight again. Yi Fei immediately jumped out of the pit energetically. He looked at Lin Tianjiao with a strong desire to fight. This time, he must win. There's no need to fight. I've lost. I take back my words. Not everyone in your Beiyang country is weak. At least you have an expert. Yi Fei, let's fight again in the future if there's a chance. Lin Tianjiao spat out a mouthful of black blood and suddenly undid the seal on his body. His cultivation immediately returned from the LV-6 Martial King realm to the LV-10 Martial King realm. His injuries were also mostly healed. Lin Tianjiao took a deep look at Yi Fei. Without saying anything, he rushed into the sky and opened the gate to return to the Beiyang country. Yi Fei was very depressed. The martial artists present were in an uproar. What do they hear? Lin Tianjiao, who had never been defeated since his debut, actually admitted his defeat. What's going on? Lin Tianjiao and Yi Fei were both injured. They could have continued to fight. Why did Lin Tianjiao suddenly leave? Lin Tianjiao is very proud. Perhaps he disdained to use his advantage in cultivation to defeat Yi Fei. Some martial artist who admired Lin Tianjiao discussed. No, you're all wrong. Lin Tianjiao left not because he didn't want to fight with Yi Fei, but because he hasn't found a way to counter Yi Fei's strange fist technique. Once he finds a way, he will definitely come and challenge Yi Fei. The Northern Heavenly King saw the confused look on everyone's faces and couldn't help but reveal the real reason why Lin Tianjiao left. He took a deep look at Yi Fei and said, "Boy, you have to be careful the next time you meet Lin Tianjiao. The next time we meet, I definitely won't lose so miserably," Yi Fei said in a low voice. Even though he knew the reason why Lin Tianjiao left, Yi Fei was still very unhappy. Yi Fei's fighting spirit had been completely ignited after witnessing the might of the northern region's strongest sky pride. So what if it's Lin Tianjiao? The next time we meet, I will definitely defeat him. Yi Fei clenched his fists. His heart was filled with the confidence to win. When it came to the heart of martial arts, he definitely wouldn't lose to Lin Tianjiao. What an amazing fighting spirit. Now I understand why His Majesty is paying attention to you. Yi Fei, come with me to meet His Majesty. Congratulations on obtaining first place on the Earth list. The Northern Heavenly King smiled and waved at Yi Fei. His words caused a stir among the martial artists present. First place on the Earth list. Yi Fei actually became first place on the Earth list. He's the #1 expert in Beiyang country. What Beiyang? Yi Fei is from the North Sea. The previous battle had been too intense. Many martial artists have been mesmerized by it. After the Northern Heavenly King's reminder, everyone came to their senses. After Lin Tianjiao had been unable to break Yi Fei's empty realm fist and left in a fit of anger, Yi Fei was undoubtedly first place on the Earth list. Even the fourth prince, Zhu Zhen, and Bai Gongchun were wholeheartedly convinced that Yi Fei had obtained first place. What a joke! After seeing the terrifying battle between Yi Fei and Lin Tianjiao that was comparable to a heavenly king, none of the martial artists present had the guts to challenge Yi Fei. The only thing that depressed everyone was that Yi Fei didn't seem to belong to Beiyang country. Instead, he belonged to the narrow region of the North Sea. The first place on the Earth list had actually been taken by an outsider. Many of the martial artists in Beiyang country felt ashamed. Fortunately, even if Yi Fei obtains first place, the second and third places will still belong to Beiyang country. Some of the martial artists consoled each other. When the Western Sky King heard this, he immediately poured cold water on everyone. Don't even think about getting second and third place. His Majesty has ordered that only by defeating Lin Tianjiao will one be qualified to enter the Earth list. You people who go weak at the sight of Lin Tianjiao are not qualified to enter the Earth list. What? Does that mean that other than Yi Fei, we have all been eliminated from the Earth list? The fourth prince, Zhu Zhen, was shocked when he heard this. Fourth prince, I'm sorry. This is His Majesty's order. His Majesty wants me to tell you that if you don't even dare to face Lin Tianjiao, how will you face the millions of citizens of Beiyang country in the future? How will you face the pack of wolves surrounding Beiyang country? The Eastern Sky King and Southern Sky King let out a long sigh before leaving with the Western Sky King. This battle for the Earth list had undoubtedly disappointed them, but it had also excited them. Chapter 508. The North Sea Sword King scene was eerily quiet. The Earth list contest this time had undoubtedly dealt a heavy blow to the fourth prince and Bai Gongchun. They had come with confidence, but at the final juncture, they had returned empty-handed. They hadn't even qualified to enter the Earth list. I hate it. Why is it that Yi Fei can face Lin Tianjiao and challenge him bravely? Why don't we have the same courage? In the end, Lin Tianjiao is too strong, and the martialists of Beiyang Nation are too weak. Your Majesty is right. If we don't even dare to face Lin Tianjiao, then what's the point of us cultivating? No matter how strong we are just a flock of sheep. Zhu Zhen, Bai Gongchun, Qin Bing, and the other martialists present were all very indignant. They had suffered a heavy blow, and the Northern Heavenly King was secretly worried. Your Majesty, I know that you want to use Lin Tianjiao to provoke everyone. However, won't this cause these young people to be unable to recover from the setback? However, the Northern Heavenly King's worries were unfounded. There are many disheartened martialists. However, after their dismay, Many of them had an even stronger fighting spirit in their eyes. Qin Bing suddenly walked to Bei Gongchun's side and cupped his fists. "Eldest princess, I have been by your side for 10 years. It is time for me to leave. I will leave Beiyang Nation and head to various places in the northern region to train. Goodbye." Qin Bing nodded at Yi Fei and turned to leave without another word. Qin Bing. Bei Gongchun stared blankly at Qin Bing, the man who had been by her side silently for 10 years. No matter how unyielding she had been, no matter how cold her attitude had been, Qin Bing had never complained. Over time, even Bei Gongchun had thought that it was natural for Qin Bing to stay by her side. However, when Qin Bing decided to leave and go on his own, Bei Gongchun suddenly realized that something was missing in her heart. The Northern Heavenly King walked to Bei Gongchun's side and comforted her. "Daughter, this kid is not bad. If you like him, go ahead and pursue him." Zhu Zhun, Bei Gongchun. All the warriors present looked at Bei Gongchun with strange expressions. Who didn't know that Bei Gongchun had always been more manly than a man? How could she make such a rash decision because of her feelings? Bei Gongchun's face darkened. He glared at his father coldly and turned to leave. He didn't notice anyone except for Yi Fei. Bei Gongchun seemed to be in a hurry as he left. It was obvious that failing the earth roll and Qin Bing's departure had dealt a huge blow to Bei Gongchun. After all, he was not familiar with Bei Gongchun, so he did not say anything. Then, Yi Fei noticed a sharp gaze directed at him. It was the fourth prince, Zhu Zhun. After the earth rankings ended, he didn't leave immediately. Instead, he walked to Yi Fei's side. "Yi Fei, I lost this time. But next time, I will definitely take back what belongs to me." This time, Yi Fei was the only one qualified to enter the earth roll. This was a huge blow to Zhu Zhun. His eyes were filled with indignation. Yi Fei understood Zhu Zhun's indignation. After all, he was an outsider who didn't belong to the Northern Ocean Nation. Yet, he had obtained the title of the #1 elite of the Northern Ocean Nation. If he were in Zhu Zhun's shoes, he would definitely be indignant as well. "Fourth prince, I will be waiting for your challenge at any time," Yi Fei said seriously as he looked at Zhu Zhun. This surprised Zhu Zhun a little. Then he understood. "Be careful of Bai Tianyun," the fourth prince, Zhu Zhun, said in a low voice. He then turned around and left. Following the departure of Bei Gongchun and the fourth prince, the other cultivators were very unwilling. However, they had already been eliminated. They could only look enviously at Yi Fei, who was the last to remain. "Bai Tianyun, of course I will be careful." Yi Fei looked at Zhu Zhun's back as he left. A look of contemplation flashed across his face. Then he immediately sat down cross-legged and started to recover the quintessential essence that he had expended. The Northern Heavenly King looked at Yi Fei with great admiration. Not arrogant in victory, not discouraged in defeat. Under such circumstances, he still hasn't forgotten to cultivate. I finally understand why the king values this kid so much. The Northern Heavenly King didn't rush Yi Fei. Instead, he waited for about an hour. When Yi Fei had completely recovered the quintessential essence in his body, the Northern Heavenly King walked over and said, "Yi Fei, congratulations on obtaining the title of #1 on the Earth Roll of the Northern Ocean Nation. From today onwards, you are the strongest elite of the Northern Ocean Nation." Northern Heavenly King, compared to the title of the strongest elite, I am more interested in knowing what benefits I can obtain by obtaining the title of #1 on the Earth Roll. Yi Fei was a little excited. After all, Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List was the oldest assessment ranking list. Once one was on such a ranking list, the benefits that one would receive should be considerable. Yi Fei didn't lack anything then, but he lacked cultivation resources. In the face of Yi Fei's straightforwardness, the Northern Heavenly King was very depressed. He had prepared at least an hour's worth of words of encouragement. He had even prepared a draft to persuade Yi Fei to join the Northern Ocean Nation. In the end, Yi Fei's straightforwardness had shut him up. However, the Northern Heavenly King wasn't angry. Instead, he admired Yi Fei even more. Understanding that Yi Fei wasn't the kind of person who was bound by formalities, the Northern Heavenly King nodded his head decisively and said, "Don't worry. Since you have obtained the title of number 1 on the Earth roll, you will naturally receive the corresponding rewards. According to the rules of the Northern Ocean Nation, any elite who obtains the title of number 1 on the Earth roll has the right to enter the Northern Ocean Nation's national treasury and choose 3 treasures. I can enter the Northern Ocean Nation's national treasury and choose my own treasures. Ife was very shocked. Who didn't know that the national treasury of a large country like the Northern Ocean Nation was a super treasure trove? The treasures in there might even be more than all the treasures in the Taishien's sacred ground combined. The most important thing was that he could choose his own treasures. Doesn't this mean that if there are sacred weapons in the national treasury, I can take them away as long as I want to? Sacred weapons? Kid, you are really greedy. I'm not afraid to tell you that there are indeed sacred weapons in the national treasury. It's just that whether you can find them will depend on your luck, kid, the Northern Heavenly King said with some amusement. Can I really choose sacred weapons? The Northern Ocean King is really generous. Yifei was also very shocked when he heard this. He had only casually mentioned the option of choosing sacred weapons. He hadn't expected the Northern Heavenly King to agree without hesitation. Could this be the so-called boldness of a large country? Compared to the Northern Ocean Nation, the North Sea was indeed too small. Senior, please lead the way. Shall we go to the National Treasury now? Yifei asked the Northern Heavenly King somewhat anxiously. The Northern Heavenly King chuckled. He also understood Yifei's anxiousness. At the same time, he looked at Yifei enviously. Yifei, don't be anxious. Choosing treasures in the National Treasury is a small matter. The Northern Heavenly King has also stipulated that the person who ranks first on the Earth list will be conferred the title of King directly. Have you thought about your title? I can actually be conferred the title of King. Yifei was even more shocked. Then, he realized that this was also one of the Northern Ocean King's methods. After all, the Northern Ocean King was so generous that he had even opened the National Treasury. If Yifei didn't express his gratitude or contribute to the Northern Ocean Nation to a certain extent, it wouldn't be right. Fortunately, the North Sea, where Yifei was located, was originally a chaotic land without a ruler. The Zhao Kingdom had already fallen, so Yifei didn't have much of a burden in his heart. At this time, there was nothing wrong with joining the Northern Ocean Nation. This junior is slow-witted. I really don't understand the issue of titles. Why don't you help me think of one? Yifei said modestly. The Northern Heavenly King nodded. This kid was indeed not bad to be modest and cautious in the face of fame and fortune. Yifei, I heard that you are an expert swordsman, like the sword maniac Sacred Lord, and also from the North Sea. What do you think of the title of North Sea Sword Monarch? It just so happens that the North Sea Monarch was killed by a flood dragon in the North Sea. If you agree, I can personally request His Majesty to bestow the entire North Sea to you. Chapter 509. Treasure selection in the National Treasury, however. Yifei would not reject such a good thing. Moreover, he was very satisfied with the title of Northern Sea Sword King. All right, from today onwards, I'm a Northern Sea Sword King. Senior Heavenly King, what should we do next? Should we meet the king first, or go to the National Treasury to select treasures? Brat, do you think I don't know that you want to choose treasures more than meeting the king? Follow me. I'll let you see the National Treasury of Beiong Country. Seeing that Yifei had accepted the title of Northern Sea Sword King, the Northern Heavenly King could be considered as one of them. Thus, he spoke more casually. Hee, then I'll have to trouble Senior Heavenly King to lead the way. Yifei also smiled. The National Treasury of Beiong Country must have a lot of good things. Unfortunately, he could only choose 3 items. Fortunately, Yifei did not say this out loud. Otherwise, the Northern Heavenly King would have scolded Yifei. After all, that was the National Treasury, where all the treasures of Beiong Country were gathered. If others could go in and choose one item, they would be so grateful that they would cry tears of joy. However, this guy was not satisfied after choosing 3 items. After passing through the winding paths of the palace and passing through many hidden and open sentry posts, the northern heavenly king brought Yi Fei to an ancient stone door. The palace experts guarding the stone door had already received orders. It was not strange for them to see the northern heavenly king and Yi Fei. More than 110th layer Martial King palace experts used all their strength to barely push the stone door open. Then, they panted and bowed respectfully to the two people. Northern Heavenly King, Northern Sea Sword King, His Majesty has ordered that you two have one day to stay in the National Treasury. Please come in. I'll have to trouble you, eunuchs. The Northern Heavenly King's expression became serious when he arrived at the National Treasury. Eunuchs? Yi Fei was secretly shocked. In the Northern Sea, a 10th layer Martial King could dominate a region. However, in Bayong country, they were only the most ordinary eunuchs. From this, one could see just how powerful Bayong was. However, in the entire northern region, Northern Ocean country was only the weakest country. How terrifying would the other countries that were stronger than Northern Ocean country be? Lin Tianjiao appeared in the northern wilderness. I wonder how many experts there are in the other two countries, the Northern Plains and the Northern Plains. It is said that in addition to the 4 great nations in the northern region, there are several other regions, holy lands, and sects that are entrenched. The geniuses in those regions are not to be underestimated. Walking into the National Treasury, Yi Fei was inwardly awed. He did not relax in the slightest just because he had taken first place on the Earth ranking and become the North Sea Sword Monarch. He knew that there was still a certain gap between him and the true geniuses of the northern region and the heaven's chosen Lin. The treasures in the National Treasury were also beyond Yi Fei's expectations. Everywhere he looked, there were jewels, mountains of gold and silver. Huge amounts of spirit crystals were piled up on tall mountains. Countless spirit stones could be seen everywhere on the ground. Yi Fei, this is the National Treasury's storage. It is divided into many areas. There are high-level spirit pills and spirit herbs, as well as the heaven, saint, and emperor-level cultivation techniques that Bayong has collected. Of course, the sacred artifact that you want is also hidden here. However, I will not tell you the exact location. You will have to explore it yourself. You only have one day. After the Northern Heavenly King finished speaking, he walked to a corner and stood there, allowing Yi Fei to choose the huge amount of treasures. Yi Fei did not stand on ceremony. He walked directly past the mountains of gold and silver, spirit crystals, and spirit stones to the area where the spirit pills were stored. What he saw was a shelf full of spirit pills that were heaven level and above. However, Yi Fei had no intention of choosing them. Instead, he carefully looked through the bottles one by one. Finally, after an hour, Yi Fei found what he was looking for. Earth Spirit Pill. It can forcibly raise the quality of a martial artist Dantian to Earth Level 1. This is it. Yi Fei happily took a bottle. When he saw that there were 100 pills inside, he became even happier. The Northern Heavenly King could not bear to watch any longer. He was speechless. Earth Spirit Pill. Kid, you already have heaven-level talent. Those Earth Spirit Pills are completely useless to you. That's right. These pills are useless to me. However, they are very useful to my family. Actually, when Yi Fei came to the imperial capital, he felt that something did not make sense. That was, the imperial capital was filled with hedonistic young masters. However, each of them was stronger and more talented than the other. After asking Long Gang and the others, Yi Fei found out that these large family clans would spend a lot of money to prepare Earth Spirit Pills, which could forcibly raise their talents for their good-for-nothing disciples. With such pills and the accumulation of countless cultivation resources, these hedonistic young masters in the imperial capital were able to reach the Martial King realm. However, Earth Spirit Pills were very rare in the imperial capital. Furthermore, they were tightly controlled by the imperial family. Without special connections, it was impossible to obtain them. This was also the reason why Yi Fei immediately looked for Earth Spirit Pills when he came in. With these Earth Spirit Pills, my family Yi will soon give birth to 100 geniuses with Earth-level talents. If they grow up, even if I leave the northern region one day, my family, you will be able to protect itself," Yi Fei secretly said excitedly. The Northern Heavenly King finally understood Yi Fei's plan. He was actually doing it for his family. He could not help but think more highly of Yi Fei. At the very least, Yi Fei's character made the Northern Heavenly King feel very reassured. Therefore, he kindly advised, "Earth Spirit pills alone are not enough. Why don't you head to the weapons area and choose a sacred artifact embryo? This can also be used as the cornerstone treasure of your Northern Sea Mansion." Why didn't I think of that? Thank you for the reminder, Heavenly King. Yi Fei excitedly walked toward the weapons area not far away. We're all family. You don't have to be so polite. The Northern Heavenly King's smile was a little treacherous. Although he was kindly reminding Yi Fei, he actually had other intentions. He hoped that Yi Fei would waste another chance to choose a treasure. This way, Yi Fei's chances of choosing a sacred artifact would be greatly reduced. At the very least, losing a sacred artifact embryo was much more worth it than losing a sacred artifact. Moreover, the Northern Heavenly King did not wish for Yi Fei to show off a sacred artifact at such a young age. Often, when a cultivator became dependent on a sacred artifact, it was the beginning of their downfall. There was a precedent for this in the Northern Sea Nation. Yi Fei did not know what the Northern Heavenly King was thinking. He walked to the weapons area, and, as expected, he quickly found a shield that was emitting the energy of a sacred artifact embryo. His face lit up with joy, and he immediately picked it up. Within the beast mark, the little girl panicked when she saw it. She covered her face and looked as if she had seen a big, stupid pig. The little girl started gesturing in a flurry. Yi Fei's heart skipped a beat. He quickly asked, "Xiao Qiao, did you find something better?" He knew that the grass growing on his body was extraordinary. It was already very rare for a plant to take human form. For it to have a complete soul like the little girl, who was no different from an ordinary little girl, was 1 in a million. This type of spiritual object also had a natural characteristic. They were especially sensitive to spiritual energy or treasures. The little girl weakly pointed in the opposite direction of a shield. She was too lazy to protest that Yi Fei had given her such an unpleasant name, Xiao Qiao. Chapter 510. Forbidden Battle Armor. Yi Fei didn't know what the little girl was thinking. He hurriedly turned around when he heard her words. When he turned around, his face immediately darkened. This was because he discovered that the little girl had actually chosen an extremely tattered bee skin armor. Although the patterns on it were beautiful, half of it was burnt like charcoal. No matter how he looked at it, it was extremely ugly. "Damn, Xiao Qiao, what's wrong with your eyes? Is this even a treasure?" Yi Fei was very depressed. The little girl nodded with certainty. She stared at the armor with a drooling expression. When Yi Fei saw this, his heart skipped a beat. He muttered to himself, "The treasury of Northern Ocean country is filled with absolute treasures. Since this battle armor has entered the treasury, it shouldn't be an ordinary treasure." Subconsciously, Yi Fei looked at the Northern Heavenly King not far away. However, he saw that the Northern Heavenly King was expressionless. He did not stop Yi Fei, nor did he offer any advice. However, the more this was the case, the more Yi Fei felt that there was something fishy going on. Who knows, this thing might really be a treasure. Whatever, I'll believe in Xiao Qiao just this once. Yi Fei did not hold back and immediately picked up the bee skin armor. "Heavenly King, I'll choose this for the second treasure." The Northern Heavenly King's face twitched unconsciously. He did not know whether he should be envious or jealous of Yi Fei's good luck. He actually managed to find a treasure like this. "Yi Fei, have you really decided?" the Northern Heavenly King asked. "Senior, I feel that you're very nervous," Yi Fei said doubtfully. "Bastard, isn't it just a forbidden weapon? Why would this Heavenly King be nervous?" The Northern Heavenly King felt that he was being looked down upon by this junior. However, he quickly realized that Yi Fei was indirectly trying to get information out of him. "All right, you're deliberately trying to get information out of me, aren't you?" Please enlighten me, Senior." Seeing the Northern Heavenly King's nervous expression, How could Yi Fei not know that he had definitely obtained a treasure that would make even the Northern Heavenly King feel heartache? Umph, I really don't know how lucky you are. The thing looks so shabby, and you actually managed to find it. Fine, since you've obtained it, then I'll explain it to you. The so-called forbidden tool is a saint tool that can only be used once. After using them, they're gone. Furthermore, they usually have huge side effects. That's why they're called forbidden weapons, the Northern Heavenly King said. Hearing this, Yi Fei was also very surprised. A sacred weapon that can only be used once and has huge side effects? Then what's the use of this thing? The Northern Heavenly King shook his head and sighed. Then he explained in detail, it's very simple to use this battle armor. You just need to drip a drop of blood on it. It will automatically help you block all of Wu Jun's attacks below the first stage. However, it only lasts for 2 hours. If you exceed the limit, the battle armor will be destroyed. At the same time, your entire body will be separated from you. The shortest period is 3 days, and the slowest period is a month. You won't be able to use any true Yuan martial arts, and will be in a completely mortal state. Despite the huge side effects, Yi Fei was still very fond of this battle armor. After all, with it, he would be able to obtain a completely invincible defensive stance at a critical moment. He would be able to attack or retreat as he wished. Even a super powerhouse like Wu Jun, who was in the first stage, would not be able to do anything to him. Senior, I've decided. I want this forbidden weapon and that shield over there. Yi Fei's appetite was not ordinary. He wanted the forbidden weapon, but he also wanted the embryo of the sacred weapon over there. This immediately made the Northern Heavenly King's eyes turn red. He scolded with jealousy. I really don't know what kind of dog's hit luck you have. Why didn't I have your luck back then? It's really infuriating when you compare yourself to others. When Yi Fei saw the Northern Heavenly King's attitude, he understood that he had been too harsh on the Northern Heavenly King. He immediately went forward and flattered him. Compared to Senior's invincible strength, my luck is just a drop in the ocean. Kid, don't try to worm your way into being friends with me. I won't fall for it. Since you've already chosen your treasures, come with me. I'll give you one last benefit. The Northern Heavenly King deliberately put on a straight face. However, he still felt very comfortable being flattered by a young genius like Yi Fei. Therefore, before Yi Fei could ask, he took the initiative to explain. First place on the Earth leaderboard. Other than choosing treasures in the National Treasury, you can also enter the Sacred Spirit Spring of my Bayong country to cultivate. However, you can only do so for 10 days. After 10 days, I'll bring you to see the king. What? There's a Sacred Spirit Spring? Yi Fei and the little girl's eyes lit up at the same time. Then, Yi Fei asked a little embarrassedly, Northern Heavenly King, 10 days is so long. What if I accidentally absorb all the Spirit Spring? If you have the ability, go ahead and absorb it. When the Northern Heavenly King heard this, he almost laughed his head off. How could a junior like him want to exhaust all the spirit energy in the Sacred Spirit Spring? However, the Northern Heavenly King soon regretted saying such a thing, especially when Yi Fei still had a heaven-defying spirit like the little girl on him. Outside the palace, the bustling crowd had yet to leave. Instead, with the end of the Earth leaderboard, countless warriors squeezed outside the palace gates. How was it? Who got first place in the end? Needless to say, it's definitely the fourth prince, Zhu Jun. He was first place on the Earth leaderboard last time. It will be the same this time. Then the second place should be Beigong Chun. I wonder who got third place. The warriors discussed animatedly. The Bai family stewards, who had been beaten black and blue, also squeezed forward and shouted. Third place is needless to say. It's definitely our young master, Bai Tianyan. Who else could it be other than him? Let's say young Master Yi can get into the top 3. A group of Flower Fairy Palace girls were unwilling to accept this and squeezed over to cheer for Yi Fei. Countless pairs of eyes looked nervously and expectantly at the tightly shut gates of the palace. Everyone knew that once the gates opened, it would be the time to decide the final rankings. Many warriors who had unfortunately fallen off the Earth leaderboard couldn't help but wail again. Most of them were paying attention to their own nephew's rankings. Coincidentally, a stray dog squeezed into the crowd and unabashedly pooped a pile of dog poop in front of the Bai family steward. The Bai family's steward, who had long found the Flower Fairy Palace an eyesore, suddenly thought of a vicious idea. He pointed at the dog poop on the ground and sneered, "Flower Fairy Palace, do you dare make a bet with us on who gets first place? If that country bumpkin Yi Fei gets first place, we will immediately eat this pile of dog poop. If he doesn't, it will be your turn to eat it, hee hee." Bai family, you are so shameless. Third Aunt Du was so angry that her face turned red. The Flower Fairy was also furious and was about to say something. Boom! The palace gates suddenly opened, and the three heavenly kings walked out at the same time, expressionless. Behind them were countless young geniuses who hung their heads in dejection. It's the heavenly kings. There are actually 3 heavenly kings announcing the Earth leaderboard this time. Heavenly kings, how is it? Who got first place on the Earth leaderboard this time? The crowd scrambled to squeeze forward. They wanted to be the first to get a place on the Earth leaderboard. This not only concerned their family's glory, but also the outcome of the underground casino. Chapter 511. The Wrath of the Bai Family Silence. I will now announce the results of the Earth Roll. First place goes to Yi Fei of the North Sea. His Majesty has decreed that Yi Fei will be conferred the title of North Sea Sword King from now on. His status will be equal to the 4 heavenly kings. As for the second and third place, I'm very sorry. Other than Yi Fei, everyone else will be eliminated from the Earth Roll this time by the Emperor. After announcing the Beiyang King's decree, the 3 heavenly kings hurriedly left with their sons and daughters. On the way out, they could hear sounds of scolding and beating. "You bunch of brats, we don't expect you to surpass Yi Fei, but you should at least be on par with the 4th prince and Bei Gongchun. You bunch of unfilial sons, you're really infuriating." Smack! The more they scolded, the angrier they got. When they reached a place where there was no one around, they were beaten up. Unfortunately, no one was paying attention to the heavenly king's family matters. Many people were stunned by the results announced by the 3 heavenly kings. Did we hear wrongly? Other than that country bumpkin from the North Sea, everyone else on the Earth Roll, including the 4th prince, the eldest princess, and by Tianyun, the 3 strongest geniuses of the Beiyang Kingdom, were all eliminated. Shill, who dares to call the North Sea Sword King a country bumpkin? Didn't you hear what the heavenly kings said? From now on, the North Sea Sword King's status will be on par with the heavenly kings. That's incredible. Being on par with the heavenly kings? With Yi Fei's achievements, he will at least be an invincible martial king in the future. TSK. The North Sea Sword King's future is limitless. After the warriors recovered from their shock, the topic immediately turned to Yi Fei. Even the Taishian's sacred ground, where Yi Fei came from, attracted the attention of many warriors. When Du Sanyang and the Flower Fairy heard the results, they couldn't help but cover their mouths in shock. Although they had expected Yi Fei's ranking on the Earth Roll this time wouldn't be too low, when Yi Fei obtained first place and was conferred the title of North Sea Sword King, the Flower Fairy still couldn't hide her shock. The Sword Monarch of the North Sea. Young Master Yi is so young. Not only did he become a flower sage, but he also became the Sword Monarch of the North Sea. I think we heard someone say that as long as young Master Yi gets first place, they'll immediately eat dog shit. Why aren't you eating it now? The Flower Fairy Palace was already very eye-catching to begin with, and now that they heard such words, many warriors who wanted to curry favor with the fairies also began to jeer loudly. That's right, Bai family. Didn't you guys say that you would eat dog shit if young Master Yi got first place? Why aren't you eating it now? What? My Bai family wants to eat dog shit. F***CK. It's that country bumpkin again. Bai Tianqing was so angry that his eyes were bloodshot. He couldn't wait to chop Yi Fei into pieces. Bai Tianyin was also so angry that his lungs were swollen. He tried his best to hold it in, but in the end, he couldn't hold it in any longer. Under the gaze of hundreds of thousands of warriors, The Bai brothers were so angry that their faces turned black. They didn't even bother to look at the Bai family stewards who were being forced. The two of them turned around and left angrily. First young master, second young master, wait for us. The Bai family stewards cried for their parents and hurriedly left as well. They didn't dare to utter a single word. Even so, there were still countless angry warriors who chased after the Bai brothers and scolded them. Bai Tianyun, Bai Tianqing, you two are trash. Cowards! You think you can go against the sword monarch of the North Sea with just the two of you? I think you should scram back to your mother's womb and start cultivating again. Bai Tianyun, I curse you to die a horrible death. I bet all my wealth on you, but in the end, you didn't even make it through the second round. Why don't you go and die? Disgraceful things. You two scums. I can't hold it in any longer. Even if I can't beat you, I'll still beat you up. That's right. Beat them up. They made me lose money. The eyes of the surrounding warriors turned red. Originally, Bai Tianyun, Zhu Zhen, and Bai Gongchun were the favorites to win the championship. Even if they didn't win the championship, many warriors still took out a huge amount of spirit crystals and bet that Bai Tianyun would be in the top 5. Who would have thought that the two brothers, Bai Tianyun and Bai Tianqing, would be such scammers? Both of them actually died in the second round and didn't even qualify to enter the Earth Roll. All the warriors who bet their spirit crystals on the Bai brothers couldn't hold it in anymore. Since there were millions of soldiers present, they weren't afraid that the Bai brothers would kill them in a fit of rage. They simply took out the rotten eggs and vegetables that they had prepared beforehand and threw them at the Bai brothers. There were also some vicious ones who scooped up the dog poop on the ground and threw it at the Bai brothers. The Bai brothers naturally wouldn't be hit by these things, but the stewards of the Bai family had to suffer. Not only did they have rotten eggs thrown at them, but they also had to be on guard against the dog poop that came out of nowhere. This scene infuriated the Bai brothers even more. When they reached a place with fewer people, Bai Tianqing's face darkened and he began to roar, "Brother, I can't take it anymore. That country bumpkin caused us so much trouble this time. Our Bai family definitely can't let him off." Bai Tianyun's face was ashen. He looked coldly at Bai Tianqing and said disdainfully, "Bai Tianqing, I'm already praising you by calling you trash. If you were my biological brother, I would definitely beat a piece of trash like you to death. You want our Bai family to deal with Yi Fei? Have you forgotten about Yi Fei's current status? He's the North Sea sword monarch. If our Bai family dares to deal with him, there's no need for Yi Fei to do anything." Bai Tianqing's face instantly turned even uglier. He didn't dare to vent his anger on Bai Tianyun, so he could only vent all his anger on Yi Fei. Even so, we can't let Yi Fei off. Now everyone knows that our Bai family has a grudge with Yi Fei. If we can't kill this country bumpkin, it's fine if I become a laughing stock. The key is you, brother. Bai Tianqing's face was filled with resentment, as though he was thinking for Bai Tianyun, even though he knew that Bai Tianyun was provoking him. When he thought of the humiliation of being pushed down the stairway by Yi Fei in front of tens of thousands of people, Bai Tianyun was instantly enraged. "Shut up. I naturally won't let the Yi Fei off. However, he's in the limelight now. Even if we want to make a move, we definitely can't do it. Brother, could it be that you have thought of a good idea?" Bai Tianqing asked in surprise. What he heard was Bai Tianyun's disdainful and cold mocking voice. "Humph, do you think I'm a complete piece of trash like you? If I want to deal with Yi Fei, I don't even need to make a move personally. I can make that Yi Fei beg for death," Bai Tianyun said proudly. After that, Bai Tianyun couldn't be bothered to say another word to this trash of a younger brother in front of him. He only instructed one of the Bai family's stewards, "You, go to Heaven's Pride and immediately and draw a blood-red Bodhi symbol on the door. Then, come back and report to me." "Yes, young master." The steward didn't dare to delay. He quickly left the group and ran to Heaven's Pride and alone. No one noticed the Bai family's small actions. Many people were still immersed in the frustration and regret of not keeping an eye on Yi Fei. However, the most regretful people were never these gamblers, but the owners of the underground gambling dens. Chapter 512. Martial King Realm Level 7, one had to know that if he hadn't opened Yi Fei's bet, the banker would have won the bet this time. However, he couldn't resist the temptation and accepted a mysterious woman's bet of 10 million spirit crystals. He even lost his mind and opened the odds of 1 to 100. Now that Yi Fei won, the mysterious girl's 10 million spiritual crystals instantly became 1 billion spiritual crystals. Of course, the casino owner could afford to lose 1 billion spiritual crystals. What really made the casino owner vomit blood was that the little girl who bet on Yi Fei's victory was the second person who bet on him. She was truly a ruthless demon. With a wave of her hand, she bet 50 million spiritual crystals. According to the current payout, that was a total of 5 billion spiritual crystals. That amount of spiritual crystals had obviously exceeded the casino's tolerance limit. The employees of the casino who received the news were all dumbfounded. Someone immediately suggested, "Boss, why don't we take the spiritual crystals and escape from Bayong country?" Escape? If we could escape, why would I still be here vomiting blood? It was my mistake. I didn't expect that the little girl who ate the spiritual melon was actually the young miss of the Merchant Alliance. I've lost everything this time, the casino owner said with a long face. Shang Luo's smug laughter immediately rang out in the void. Humph, at least you know your place. You know that if I want to do business, even if you run to the ends of the earth, I will be able to catch you any time. Seeing Shang Luo walk out of the void, the casino owner was no longer in tears. Instead, he looked like he was about to cry. 5 billion spiritual crystals. Even if he sold himself, he wouldn't be able to afford it. More importantly, he couldn't go back on his word. Young Miss Shang, are you here to collect your debt? The casino owner's face was ashen. No, it's not my style to kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. How about this? Seeing that you're quite pitiful, I won't take the bet. I'll buy your underground casino in Bayong country for 50 million spiritual crystals. Do you think that's a problem? Shang Luo shrewdly calculated. The gambling den's boss spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot when he heard this. One had to know that his gambling den had once been offered 2 billion spirit crystals by a bigwig from Bayong Nation, but he hadn't been willing to sell it. In the end, Shang Luo had swallowed up his business without spending a single cent. The casino owner's heart wanted to kill himself. It was all his fault. How could he not see that Yi Fei was actually the biggest dark horse on the earth roll this time? I won't bicker with Yi Fei for the time being since I've made a huge profit this time. However, Zhao Yu, this casino now belongs to the Merchant Alliance. Don't you think it's a little too much for you to take away 1 billion spiritual crystals without doing anything? Shang Luo finished speaking and looked outside the casino. Zhao Yu, who was wearing a light veil, walked in. She looked at Shang Luo calmly and said, "You can also choose to go back on your word." Shang Luo won't go back on my word. That's because you can't beat me. Zhao Yu naturally took the 1 billion spiritual crystals that belonged to her and floated away. This time, she didn't do anything to Shang Luo. Shang Luo also found it strange. That's strange. Since she thinks so highly of Yi Fei, why did she secretly place a bet and refuse to meet Yi Fei? However, I can't lose to her. I can lose to anyone but her. Obviously, Shang Luo had suffered a heavy blow after sensing Zhao Yu's terrifying 10th-stage martial king cultivation. It seems that after we go back, I'll have to go into seclusion to cultivate for a while. Eldest Miss wants to cultivate? The nearby experts of the Merchant Alliance were so shocked that their eyeballs almost fell to the ground. One had to know that Shang Luo usually ate nothing but spiritual melons. Why would she want to cultivate? Did the sun rise from the west? The Saint-level spirit spring in the Northern Ocean country was bigger than Yi Fei had imagined. If the Saint-level spirit spring that Yi Fei encountered in the previous 2 times was only the size of a well, then this Saint-level spirit spring was the size of a lake. Now, the Saint-level spirit spring that Yi Fei was cultivating in was as big as a lake. No wonder the Northern Heavenly King wasn't worried that he would absorb all the spiritual chi in it. This spirit spring was so big that Yi Fei estimated that even if he was given another 10 days, he would still be able to absorb all the spiritual chi in it. He wouldn't be able to consume all the spiritual chi in it. However, there was an advantage to having such a big spirit spring. It was full of spiritual chi, so he didn't have to worry about not having enough spiritual chi for cultivation. It seems that there is hope for me to break through to the 7th-stage Martial King realm this time. Yi Fei looked excited. He had been stuck in the 6th-stage Martial King realm for a whole year. Now, the Saint-level Spirit Spring was the best opportunity for Yi Fei to break through. Yi Fei immediately activated the Devil Emperor Sutra and began to cultivate rapidly. As he cultivated, the spiritual chi in the entire spirit spring immediately rushed into Yi Fei's body. However, it didn't enter his dantian. Instead, it turned around and rushed into the beast mark. What's going on? Oh no, Xiao Qiao, you're trying to snatch it from me. Yi Fei finally realized that something was wrong. He saw that only 10% of the spiritual chi he had absorbed was absorbed into his body. The rest was completely absorbed by Xiao Qiao. Yi Fei felt depressed. How could he have forgotten that apart from the immortal sword spirit in his dantian that had a huge appetite, the little girl hiding in the beast mark was also good at absorbing spiritual chi? She's not going to absorb all the spiritual chi in the spirit spring, is she? Yi Fei had seen how terrifying the little girl's absorption of spiritual chi was. No matter how much spiritual chi there was, it wouldn't be enough to fill her little belly. Yi Fei had no choice but to grab the little girl out of the beast mark. Helplessly, he realized that most of the spiritual chi he had tried to absorb was being absorbed by the little girl. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but after absorbing half of the spiritual chi in the spirit spring, Xiao Qiao seemed to have grown a little taller. Her face also became more pink and cute. Now is not the time to worry about these things. I should hurry up and use the spiritual chi to increase my cultivation. As for the spiritual chi I've lost, I'll just treat it as my repayment for helping me. In any case, the spirit spring didn't belong to him. Even if it was depleted, Yi Fei wouldn't feel the slightest bit of heartache. However, the Northern Heavenly King, who was standing guard in the distance, had to suffer. What kind of cultivation technique is this kid cultivating? How can he absorb spiritual chi so quickly? If he wasn't the only one here, I would have suspected that there was someone secretly cultivating inside. The Northern Heavenly King's eyes widened in disbelief. He suddenly regretted saying that it didn't matter if Yi Fei absorbed all the spirit spring, no matter how he looked at it. The speed at which Yi Fei absorbed the spirit spring was inhuman. Of course, the Northern Heavenly King would never have guessed that Yi Fei only used a very small portion of the spiritual chi for cultivation. The remaining 99% was completely absorbed by Xiao Qiao. She ate until her little belly became round and couldn't absorb any more. Only then did Xiao Qiao burp in satisfaction. She lay back down in the beast mark and fell into a deep sleep. Her body also emitted a very pleasant fragrance that enveloped her and Yi Fei. Hey, this fragrance. What a rich spiritual medicine fragrance. My bottleneck seems to have loosened. Yi Fei sniffed hard. Sure enough, he discovered that under the influence of this fragrance, the circulation of the Devil Emperor Sutra in his body increased rapidly. Before he could understand what was going on, there was a boom. Yi Fei's cultivation had broken through from the 6th to the 7th Martial King realm. At this time, only 3 days had passed. I actually broke through my bottleneck in 3 days. Yi Fei was stunned. At this time, how could he not know how precious Xiao Qiao in the beast mark was? Chapter 513. Meeting the King. Brat, listen up. When you meet the King, you must be respectful. If you offend the King, I will be the first to skin you alive. Oof. The Northern Heavenly King led Yi Fei to the King's chambers. His face was black and white and black. He gritted his teeth, and his attitude was completely different from before. Yi Fei also obediently followed behind without saying a word, but in his heart, he was very depressed. Who asked him to use up the Saint Great Spirit Spring in just 3 days' time? Even though the real culprit was not him, but the little girl hiding in the beast mark, Yi Fei still had to take the blame. On the other hand, the Northern Heavenly King was able to hold back his anger, even though he had suffered such a heavy loss. He only glared at Yi Fei coldly. This was already considered magnanimous. However, it's really strange. Xiao Chao absorbed so much spiritual energy, but why didn't she change at all? Apart from eating, she slept. I didn't see her increase her strength at all. Or maybe she's different from us human martial artists, so there's no classification of realms? Yi Fei pondered as he walked. Soon, he was shocked by a majestic aura. Needless to say, this aura could only be emitted by a titled martial artist, Wu Jun. At this point, the Northern Heavenly King was also shocked. He whispered to Yi Fei, "Don't make a ruckus. His Majesty is cultivating. We'll come back later." Just as the Northern Heavenly King was about to bring Yi Fei back, the king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom was alarmed. He said with a hint of surprise, "Beigong, you let Yi Fei finish cultivating so quickly? Your Majesty, it's not that I don't want this brat to cultivate. It's just that the spirit spring has been completely absorbed by him." The Northern Heavenly King's expression was very ugly. Completely absorbed? The Northern Ocean King's face twitched. Fortunately, they were separated by a room, so no one could see the change in his expression. Let him in then. Yi Fei's expression turned ugly. Judging from the Northern Ocean King's tone, he didn't know if he was angry or not. However, since they were already here, they had no choice but to enter. He had no choice but to brace himself and walk in. He bowed to a king who was wearing a dragon robe and exuded a solemn aura. Yi Fei greets the king of the Northern Ocean. The Northern Heavenly King said, "Damn it, you should address him as your Majesty." "It's fine." The Northern Heavenly King didn't mind how Yi Fei addressed him. The Northern Heavenly King then left speechlessly. The Northern Heavenly King looked at Yi Fei and didn't finish his sentence. He just sized up Yi Fei. Yi Fei didn't mind the Northern Ocean King's gaze. Instead, he looked straight at the Northern Ocean King calmly and said, "Is there something that you need me to do for you?" "How did you know that I have something that I need you to do?" The Northern Ocean King was very surprised. He didn't expect Yi Fei to react so quickly. Yi Fei pursed his lips and thought to himself, "One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. You asked me to enter the national treasury and soak in the spirit spring. If the earth roll rewards me like this every time, no matter how many treasures there are in the national treasury, they won't be able to withstand the consumption." Of course, he couldn't say this out loud. "I guessed," Yi Fei said casually. The Northern Ocean King looked deeply at Yi Fei and suddenly changed the topic. He asked, "Yi Fei, let me ask you, what's the difference between the Northern Ocean and my Northern Ocean?" "The difference is like heaven and earth," Yi Fei said helplessly. He had no choice. Although there were many countries in the Northern Ocean, the combined strength of all the countries was only equivalent to a large prefecture in the Northern Ocean. The difference was extraordinarily huge. This was also the reason why Sword Maniac Elder had insisted that Yi Fei come to the Northern Ocean. Only by truly leaving the Northern Ocean could he broaden his horizons. "Then do you know why my Northern Ocean has never annexed the Northern Ocean?" The Northern Ocean King asked again. This question stumped Yi Fei. Indeed, the Northern Ocean was not worth mentioning in the eyes of the Northern Ocean. Although the Northern Ocean had the Heavenly Een sect and the Taishan sacred ground, they were still weak compared to the Northern Ocean. Logically speaking, it should be very easy for the Northern Ocean to annex the 18 countries in the Northern Ocean. Why hadn't the Northern Ocean Kingdom done so? "Your Majesty, please enlighten me," Yi Fei said seriously. Yi Fei's attitude was very serious. He could faintly sense that the Northern Ocean King had summoned him for more than just an audience. The Northern Ocean King nodded. "All right, I'll explain it to you. Do you know that 1,000 years ago, the first Taishan sacred lord came from the royal family of the Northern Ocean? In the end, he even fought to the death for the royal family." "What? The first sacred lord was actually a member of the royal family of the Northern Ocean?" Yi Fei was shocked. However, this was not impossible, because the first sacred lord's name was Zhu Jun, and the royal family of the Northern Ocean Kingdom also had the surname Zhu. If that's the case, why did the first sacred lord go to the Northern Ocean to establish a sacred ground? Isn't it better to stay in the Northern Ocean Kingdom? Yi Fei was puzzled. A bitter smile appeared on the Northern Ocean King's face. As a descendant, I can't comment on the actions of my ancestors. I don't know if you've heard of the saying that a country can't have two kings. Isn't this saying that a mountain can't have two tigers? Yi Fei's expression was a little strange. He finally understood why the first sacred lord left the Northern Ocean Kingdom. A mountain can't have two tigers? It's a very apt metaphor. Basically, the situation is like this. Whether it's my ancestors or the first sacred lord of your sacred ground, they were all amazing talents. They became martial kings at the same time and became Wu Jun at the same time. Such geniuses would be a good thing in any family. But in the royal family, it's a headache. After all, there's only one throne. The Northern Ocean King took out a scroll and passed it to Yi Fei. In the end, the two ancestors fought. They agreed that whoever lost would leave the Northern Ocean. The battle ended with the first sacred lord's defeat. So, he went to the most remote place in the Northern Ocean and established the Taishan sacred ground. Before he left, he signed an agreement with my ancestors. As long as the sacred ground didn't fall, the Northern Ocean Kingdom couldn't annex the Northern Ocean. Yi Fei finally understood why the Northern Ocean Kingdom, which was so weak, didn't send troops to occupy it. Instead, it allowed the Northern Ocean Kingdom to send warriors to participate in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking contest. The reason was because of this. However, Your Majesty, why are you telling me this? Yi Fei had a feeling that the Northern Ocean King wasn't telling him this simply to get closer to him. Yi Fei, you're a smart person. I won't beat around the bush. I'm telling you this because I want you to know how important the Northern Ocean Kingdom is to the Northern Ocean. Ever since the first sacred lord died in battle for my ancestors, the Northern Ocean Kingdom has been taking care of and protecting the Northern Ocean for the past 1,000 years. As long as the Northern Ocean Kingdom exists, no power in the northern region will dare to openly attack the Northern Ocean. But if the Northern Ocean Kingdom doesn't exist one day, even if the sword maniac becomes a sword sage, he won't be able to protect the Northern Ocean from being invaded by the Northern Ocean Kingdom. Chapter 514. The monarch's request. Yi Fei was speechless. He was not a 3-year-old child. How could he not understand what the monarch of the Northern Ocean Kingdom wanted to express? To put it simply, the relationship between the Northern Ocean Kingdom and the Northern Ocean Kingdom, or rather, the relationship between the Northern Ocean Kingdom and the Taishan Holy Land, was a relationship where the Northern Ocean Kingdom flourished and the Taishan Holy Land suffered together. Due to the agreement, the Northern Ocean Kingdom would not interfere in the internal affairs of the Northern Ocean Kingdom, such as the competition between the 18 kingdoms of the North Sea and the battle between the Taishan Holy Land and the Heavenly Insect. However, if other external forces were involved, such as the other kingdoms of the northern region, the Northern Ocean Kingdom would not tolerate any family that wanted to occupy the Northern Ocean Kingdom and establish their own forces. Firstly, the Northern Ocean Kingdom was a part of the Northern Ocean Kingdom. Secondly, no monarch would tolerate an enemy establishing their forces in their heartland. Now, Yi Fei understood that it was because of the colossal Beiyang Kingdom that sheltered the North Sea from the wind and rain that allowed the weak North Sea to be peaceful for thousands of years without experiencing much war. However, there was one thing that Yi Fei did not quite understand. Why would the monarch of the Northern Ocean Kingdom suddenly say that the Northern Ocean Kingdom would perish if the Northern Ocean Kingdom perished? Could it be that even a powerful kingdom like the Northern Ocean Kingdom would perish one day? Yi Fei's face involuntarily revealed a look of shock. The monarch of the Northern Ocean Kingdom saw the change in Yi Fei's expression and sighed heavily. Yi Fei, it seems that you have understood. That's right. I'm telling you all this because I am afraid that the Northern Ocean Kingdom will not be able to hold on for long and may perish. Perish? How is that possible? Your Majesty is in the prime of your life and is a Wu Jun expert. Who in the northern region would dare to cause trouble for your Majesty? Yi Fei was shocked. The monarch of the Northern Ocean Kingdom suddenly coughed violently. He did not need to pretend in front of Yi Fei. Wisps of black aura came out of his nostrils. The aura was extremely evil. It was so evil that Yi Fei felt a chill run down his spine and his entire body trembled. At this moment, Yi Fei finally understood why the monarch of the Northern Ocean Kingdom said such a thing. "Your Majesty, are you injured?" Yi Fei couldn't help but have a look of fear on his face. To be able to make the powerful Wu Jun experts reveal a sickly black aura, could it be that the experts from the other 3 countries have joined forces to attack His Majesty? No, it's not them. One of them is only an accomplice. The one who truly injured me is another terrifying expert. Even now, I still can't find out who that person is and what his realm is. A shocking blood-red flame suddenly ignited on the Northern Ocean monarch's body. Yi Fei knew that it was the Northern Ocean King's own qi and blood. As it turned out, he had been burning his own blood essence to suppress the black gas in his body. This black gas is very strange. It cannot be eliminated, but it can continuously devour my life essence blood. Once my essence blood is exhausted, it will be the time for me to die. The Northern Ocean King spat out another mouthful of black blood. With great difficulty, he managed to suppress the black gas that he had released. Then, he looked at Yi Fei with bright eyes. Yi Fei also looked at the Northern Ocean King with a serious expression. He knew that this was probably the Northern Ocean King's greatest secret. Even if he didn't ask, the Northern Ocean King would definitely tell him. As for the reason, Yi Fei still didn't know, and he didn't need to know. He only knew one thing, and that was that if the lips were gone, the teeth would be interdependent. Once the Northern Ocean King died from his injuries, the Northern Ocean Kingdom would lose the suppression of Wu Jun experts. The other 3 countries would definitely not let go of this opportunity to divide the Northern Ocean Kingdom. And once the Northern Ocean Kingdom was destroyed, the Northern Ocean Kingdom would be next. Even though the Northern Ocean Kingdom has the sword Maniac Elder, the old Master Jian has only recently stepped onto the path of a Sword Saint. At most, he is only at the first realm of Wu Jun compared to the monarchs of the other 3 countries. The old Master Jian might not be a match for them, even if he has a sacred weapon. Yi Fei thought to himself. The more he thought about it, the more terrified he became. He was also from the Northern Ocean Kingdom. Naturally, he didn't want the flames of war in the northern region to spread to the Northern Ocean Kingdom. After stabilizing his injuries, the Northern Ocean King continued. Of course, Yi Fei, you don't have to worry too much. After so many years, although I haven't found the enemy who plotted against me, I have finally found a way to neutralize the black aura in my body. However, I am powerless with this method. I need a true young prodigy to be able to help me. Originally, I thought highly of Lin Tianjiao. However, this person isn't from the Northern Ocean Kingdom. I was also worried that once I revealed this secret to him, not only would I not be able to help, but I would also attract the greed of the other 3 monarchs. That was until I met you. The Northern Ocean King suddenly looked at Yi Fei with some excitement. Your strength and talent are enough to rival a Northern region prodigy like Lin Tianjiao. If it's you, Yi Fei, tell me, do you have the confidence to enter the heaven-forsaken land and help me find the sacred bone of a martial saint? The sacred bone of a martial saint? Yi Fei's heart skipped a beat. He was no longer a martial arts newbie. Of course, he knew what a sacred bone was. It was just like how a martial king expert would leave behind a talent crystal before they died. It was highly possible for an omnipotent grand sage expert to leave behind a sacred bone after death. This sacred bone also contained the martial saint's lifetime understanding of the divine path. It was incomparably precious. Yi Fei had never imagined that the Northern Ocean King would actually ask him to search for such an item. Why me? Monarch, won't you be more confident if you go yourself? Or let the 4 heavenly kings go instead? Yi Fei asked, puzzled. The Northern Ocean King was even more puzzled. He looked at Yi Fei with a strange expression and asked, why? Didn't your master tell you what the heaven-forsaken land is? My master? Yi Fei was shocked. Could it be that the king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom knew something? Yi Fei looked up and saw the king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom looking at Yi Fei meaningfully. However, the Northern Ocean King did not force Yi Fei to admit that he was the martial monarch's disciple. When he saw that Yi Fei's shock did not seem to be fake, he immediately said in a deep voice, "The heaven-forsaken land is the most unique place in our northern region. It is said that it was once the ancient era. Our northern region even has a trace of inheritance left behind by the strongest sect in the entire Tianwu continent. To enter the heaven-forsaken land, there is an extremely harsh condition. That is, one must be a young genius below the age of 30 and above the martial king realm. Only then can one enter the heaven-forsaken land and obtain the ancient era's inheritance. Do you think that I don't want to go? It's because I can't go at all." The king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom smiled bitterly and looked at Yi Fei expectantly. Yi Fei was immediately depressed. He understood that he had to help this time. After all, the Northern Ocean King had already given him countless benefits. He had also clearly stated the strong relationship between the Northern Ocean and the Northern Ocean. If he did not think of a way to help the Northern Ocean King recover from his injuries, once the Northern Ocean King died and the Northern Ocean King was destroyed, the Northern Ocean King would immediately be drawn into the flames of war and disputes. He could ignore the lives of others, but the Taishan Holy Land's foundation was in the Northern Ocean. The family Ye's foundation was also in the Northern Ocean. No matter what, Yi Fei did not wish to see his family and friends die in the chaos of war. Chapter 5:15. Blood Yiksha. Yi Fei's reply made the king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom heave a sigh of relief. He smiled and said, "I have been waiting for this day for many years. Unfortunately, the geniuses of the Northern Ocean Kingdom are all useless. None of them can reach the level of the geniuses of the North region. Yi Fei, the Northern Ocean Kingdom will depend on you in the future. Also, you don't have to force yourself to go to the heaven-forsaken land." Subsequently, the king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom told Yi Fei the details of the heaven-forsaken land. It turned out that the North region in ancient times was not as desolate and dilapidated as it was now. In ancient times, although the North region was not as prosperous as the Middle region, its unique geographical location allowed the geniuses of the North region to be numerous. 10,000 years ago, the great Emperor Wang Qing had walked out of the North region and defeated countless geniuses of the Middle region. However, the great Emperor Wang Qing had not been so extraordinary from the start. According to the records of the Northern Ocean Kingdom, the great Emperor Wang Qing had been a very ordinary genius in the North region in his early years. He was even inferior to the current Lin Tianjiao. However, ever since the great Emperor Wang Qing had accidentally discovered the heaven-forsaken land and entered it, the ordinary genius had cultivated to the martial emperor realm in 100 years. From then on, he had dominated the North region and suppressed the powerful Middle region until they could not breathe. From then on, the heaven-forsaken land had become famous in the North region. It had also become a trial that countless geniuses of the North region had to go through before they headed to the Middle region. Why do you think the 4 kingdoms of the North region hold a Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list every 3 years? It's not only because of the ancient tradition. More importantly, we want to use this method to select the true geniuses so that they can enter the heaven-abandoned land. Yi Fei, if you want to become stronger and surpass Lin Tianjiao, and even head to the Middle region where geniuses are as common as clouds, you have to enter the heaven-forsaken land. Only by passing the test of the heaven-forsaken land will you have the chance to transform into a true expert. The king of the Northern Ocean revealed many secrets to Yi Fei without holding anything back. When Yi Fei agreed to help him find the sacred bone of the martial saint, the king of the Northern Ocean no longer treated Yi Fei as a subject, but as a junior worth nurturing. This discussion lasted until dawn. Yi Fei had gained a lot that night. He also knew that there were still 3 years before the heaven-forsaken land would open again. 3 years? I will definitely go to the heaven-forsaken land. Only by passing the test of the heaven-forsaken land will I be truly qualified to go to the Central Plains. Yi Fei left the palace with a determined look in his eyes. When he left, the 4 heavenly kings had all gathered beside the king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom. The Northern Heavenly King knelt down worriedly and said, "Your Majesty, are you sure you want to do this? Your health concerns the fate of our Beiyang nation. If you carelessly hand the task over to Yi Fei, what if he fails or accidentally reveals your injuries? It's fine. I can't hide my injuries even if I want to. Besides, I trust him." The king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom said firmly. The 4 heavenly kings also lowered their heads. The Western Heavenly King said with a gloomy face, "Your Majesty, I found that the Bai family seems to want to harm Yi Fei. Do you want us to secretly take action?" The Bai family? They're just ants. Their little tricks can hurt others, but they can't hurt Yi Fei. How can the disciple of such an existence be trifled with? The king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom said with disdain. He didn't take the Bai family seriously at all. The 4 heavenly kings were puzzled. Who was that existence? This was the first time they had seen the king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom mention someone with such a respectful tone. After leaving the palace, Yi Fei planned to head to the Flower Fairy Palace to meet up with his friends and fellow disciples in the imperial capital. However, he realized that only Long Gang and the other 2 were there. Qin Bing had already left early to begin his solitary cultivation journey. Jing Wushou, the 10th prince, and the others had seen the cruelty of the earth roll and had also left early to return to the sacred land. They vowed to cultivate in seclusion. "Brother Yi, why don't you stay in the imperial capital?" Long Gang suggested. "No, I have to return to the North Sea. Besides, I have to go and take a look at the North Sea Pass." Yi Fei didn't forget about the hidden flood dragon in the North Sea Pass. The flood dragon was full of treasures. He couldn't defeat the flood dragon last time and could only escape. This time, he had to get back at it no matter what. Only then did Long Gang and the other 2 remember that Yi Fei was now the sword monarch of the North Sea. Of course, he couldn't fool around with them in the imperial capital. Therefore, it didn't force him. Both parties drank until they were drunk. The next day, without alerting anyone, Yi Fei rose into the air and left the imperial capital, preparing to return to the sacred land. But at the same time he left, suddenly, Xiao Chao's babbling came from the beast mark. It kept waving its hands as if it was reminding Yi Fei of something. "Xiao Chao, what's wrong? You don't look well. Are you sick?" Yi Fei asked with concern. Bang! In the beast mark, the little girl's face darkened and she fell to the ground miserably. She couldn't be bothered to fight with the big, stupid pig in front of her. She directly wrote the word stalking in the air. "Stalking? I'm being stalked." Yi Fei looked around blankly. Except for himself, he didn't sense anyone else's aura. However, he didn't doubt Xiao Chao's words. In terms of sensitivity to auras, no one could compare to Xiao Chao, who could transform into a plant. Yi Fei's body quickly landed on a desolate hill. With a sullen face, he shouted coldly, "Sneaky! What are you trying to do by following me? Come out and see me." "Hey kid, you're not that strong. How can you sense that I'm stalking you? It seems that your confidence has swelled after you forced Lin Tianjiao to retreat." Silently, another man in a blood-red robe appeared on the hill. Seeing this man, Yi Fei suddenly felt a sense of familiarity and disgust. "The blood-red robe of the Blood Demon sect? You're from the Blood Demon sect?" Yi Fei's heart sank. It was actually someone from the Blood Demon sect who was stalking him. Could it be that the Blood Demon sect had found out about him killing the blood-robed martial king and snatching the blood bodhi? However, he didn't know that the blood-robed man was also shocked when he heard Yi Fei's words. "Damn it, you actually know about our Blood Demon sect. Tell me, how did you know? Tell me honestly, and I'll leave you with an intact corpse." This person's words also stunned Yi Fei. What was going on? From this person's tone, it didn't seem like he was chasing him because of the blood-robed martial king or the blood bodhi. "Tell me, why are you stalking me? Tell me honestly, and I'll leave you with an intact corpse," Yi Fei retorted. He took a step forward. Even in the face of a 10th level martial king, he didn't show any weakness. This immediately angered the blood-robed man in front of him. The man said angrily, "Good. Junior, you dare to talk nonsense in front of me. Since you don't want to talk, I'll take your life and search your soul. I'll still get what I want. Remember, I'm Blood Yiksha. Since you know that I'm from the Blood Demon sect, you'll die here today. Blood Demon Boundless. Caw caw caw. The sky was filled with the strange laughter of the blood crows. Their eyes were red as they formed terrifying blood clouds that pounced towards Yifei. Chapter 516. Serial Poison Stratagem. What a strange demonic art. Even though he had dealt with the Blood Demon sect before, Yifei was still shocked when he saw this demonic art. Demonic slaughter. Yifei didn't dare to be careless. His 70% slaughter fist intent exploded. Layers of demonic fists formed illusions in the sky and mercilessly killed the blood crows. Kakaka, kill, kill. My blood demon's sex might is boundless. As long as our blood doesn't dry up, our strength will never run out. Among the blood crows, Blood Yiksha's gloating and sinister laughter rang out. Yifei was also shocked to discover that the blood crows he had killed, even though they had already turned into a mass of flesh and blood, could still wriggle quickly. Not long after, they regained their blood crow's form. Knowing that the demonic slaughter couldn't deal with these blood crows, Yifei suddenly roared. A huge black hole appeared above his head. Since I can't kill you, I might as well devour you all. Brat, you dare. Yifei's action just so happened to grab hold of one of the blood crow's weak spots. The blood crows that filled the sky suddenly disappeared, leaving only one blood crow that happened to land behind Yifei. It rapidly grew to the size of a mountain, and its sharp claws viciously clawed at Yifei's black hole space. Boom! The devouring sword intent that he had just condensed couldn't withstand the blood crow's sharp claws and shattered on the spot. Yifei's mouth also revealed a trace of blood. He turned around with a serious expression and said, "You're actually an unrivaled martial king? Kakaka, I'm an unrivaled martial king, an existence on par with the 4 heavenly kings. North Sea Sword King, seeing that you have some potential, if you can kneel down and swear to join my blood demon sect and become a blood slave, I can consider letting you go." Blood Yiksha smiled proudly. Although the Bai family wanted him to kill Yifei, he felt that Yifei's identity as the North Sea Sword King was very useful. If he could control Yifei, then the Blood Demon sect could control the North Sea Pass and even the entire White Sea. You want me to be your blood slave? The former blood-robed Martial King also said similar words to me. Unfortunately, he is already dead. Yifei coldly wiped away a trace of blood from the corner of his mouth. The person in front of him was an invincible Martial King. No wonder he was no match for him, even though he was only a 7th layer Martial King. However, Yifei was not afraid. As long as it was not a real genius like Lin Tianjiao, he would not be afraid of anyone below the Martial King realm. Kill! This time, Yifei took the initiative to charge at Blood Yiksha. Blood Yiksha also stared at Yifei with a ferocious expression and roared, "Roar! Damn it, no wonder you know about my Blood Demon Church. You actually killed a protector of our Blood Demon Church. Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it." Boom, boom, boom. The Blood Yiksha went crazy. Countless sharp claws tore through the air with explosive sounds, uprooting and tearing apart the hills that both sides were standing on. But just as Blood Yiksha thought that Yifei would be killed by him, Yifei's expression changed. Whoosh! The sky burned with raging flames. Within the flames, there was a phoenix cry. There was no one else around, so Yifei did not have to worry about anything. He raised the phoenix blood sword. With the sacred artifact in hand, Yifei's aura skyrocketed like a volcano. With endless pressure, he slashed forward. Blood Yiksha, don't you want to know how the blood-robed Martial King died? Now, I'll let you have a taste of being killed by a sacred artifact. Sacred artifact? The tyrannical Blood Yiksha felt the pressure of the phoenix blood sword and saw Yifei's terrifying sword. Suddenly, an extreme feeling of fear emerged in his heart. Sacred artifact. This kid actually has a sacred artifact. No wonder he could kill the blood-robed Martial King and the Bai family. You actually tricked me and made me deal with a freak with a sacred artifact. At this moment, Blood Yiksha was so angry that he wanted to curse. However, when he saw Yi Fei's terrifying sword light, he was so scared that he swallowed it back down. With a scream, Blood Yiksha turned around and fled. His wings were trembling. That was a sacred artifact. Unless he stepped into the sacred king realm, even if he was an unrivaled martial king, he would still be killed. Roar, kid, as long as I don't die, my blood demon sect will chase you to the ends of the earth and seize your sacred artifact. Blood Yiksha did not give up as he fled for his life. His eyes revealed a trace of greed. At this moment, Yi Fei's lips also flashed with a cold smile. You're not the first to want to seize my sacred artifact, and you won't be the last. Boom! Heaven and earth shook as the wind and blood burned. Yi Fei held the phoenix blood sword and stepped into the void. A huge sword light, carrying the pressure of a sacred artifact, slashed forward in an instant. No! Blood Yiksha roared in horror. He used all his strength to try and block the sword. However, the power of a sacred artifact was too terrifying. With a martial king, he could even fight with Wu Jun, let alone a mere unrivaled 10th rank martial king. Poof! Yi Fei's sword slashed down and instantly killed the huge blood crow in front of him. Afraid that the monster would not die, Yi Fei activated the divine fire of the phoenix blood sword. The raging flames burned everything. Not even dregs were left in the area. Unfortunately, although Blood Yiksha is strong, he doesn't have a space bag. He doesn't even have a blood bodhi. He's too poor. Yi Fei circled the fire, but did not find any treasures. He could only leave gloomily and quickly return to the Taishien's sacred ground. It was not until 3 days after Yi Fei left that Blood Yiksha did not reply. Only then did the Bai brothers find out that Blood Yiksha had been killed by Yi Fei. Bai Tianqing was completely terrified. Blood Yiksha was an unrivaled martial king, comparable to the 4 heavenly kings. However, he had failed to assassinate Yi Fei and was killed instead. Big brother, what should we do? Does Yi Fei know that we are the ones who are plotting against him? Bai Tianqing was terrified. Bai Tianqing's face was also extremely ugly. He slapped Bai Tianqing's face and said, "Trash, I'm not panicking." "Why are you panicking?" Although Blood Yiksha's death is a little unexpected, it's better this way. I still have 2 plans to kill Yi Fei." "Big brother, what plans?" Bai Tianqing asked anxiously. He did not even care about the slap on his face. He wanted to kill Yi Fei too much. Bai Tianqing laughed sinisterly. He raised 2 fingers and said proudly, "First, Blood Yiksha is not a single person. He is a force that is beyond our imagination. If Yi Fei kills Blood Yiksha, we don't have to do anything. Blood Yiksha will send stronger experts to assassinate Yi Fei. Second, Beihai Sea Pass is a place where crooks mix with honest folk. There are also several powerful sects there. When the Beihai king was still alive, he could only stabilize them through marriage. Tell me, if I suddenly write a letter to them and tell them that the Beihai king was killed by Yi Fei, what would they do?" Bai Tianqing had a puzzled expression. "Big brother, I heard that the Beihai king was killed by a rampaging flood dragon. It doesn't seem to have anything to do with Yi Fei." "Idiot. I'm only doing this to give those sects an excuse to oppose Yi Fei. When the time comes, this country bumpkin will have internal and external troubles. We don't even have to do anything. He won't live for long." Bai Tianqing said confidently as he looked at his younger brother with a sinister expression. Chapter 517. Family exits the pass. Yi Fei had no idea that the Bai brothers had been plotting against him and had managed to dig up what had happened to him in the North Sea Pass. If one really wanted to think about it, the North Sea King's death really had something to do with Yi Fei. This was because if Yi Fei hadn't snuck into the pool and stolen the Frost WRM's corpse that the Flood Dragon was guarding, the North Sea King wouldn't have died so aggrieved. Of course, Yi Fei didn't know any of this yet. The Blood Yiksha had died so quickly that Yi Fei didn't even have time to ask who had plotted against him. After another month of traveling, Yi Fei barely managed to return to the North Sea from the North Sea. It was clear how far the North Sea was from the North Sea and how big the entire northern region was. Yi Fei had thought that if he could join the Taishan Holy Land, he would definitely be able to go to the Star Moon Holy Land. Now that he thought about it, it was laughable. They were both holy lands, but if the Star Moon Holy Land was as bright as a star in the Central Plains, then the Taishan Holy Land was an insignificant speck of dust in the entire northern region. After entering the North Sea, Yi Fei didn't immediately return to the Taishan Holy Land. Instead, he decided to go to Zhao and Tianyinwufu to take a look. After all, he had been out for more than a year, and the family Yi had stayed in the Demon Ceiling Tower for 2 full years. In the past, he didn't have the ability to protect himself and could only let the family Yi stay in the Demon Ceiling Tower. Things were different now. The Sword Maniac Elder had stepped onto the path of a Sword Saint, and he had become the Sword King of the North Sea. In the entire North Sea, there was no one or power that could threaten him. The first thing Yi Fei did after returning to the North Sea was to release the family Yi from the Demon Ceiling Tower. After being cooped up in there for more than 2 years, Uncle Jian and the others must be bored out of their minds. Zhao had gone through the turmoil of the Heavenly Yin sect and was no longer in existence. However, Tianyinwufu was still the same as before. There were even disciples of the Holy Land stationed around it. Yi Fei understood that these disciples were sent by the Holy Land to protect his family Yi. He didn't alarm these people and instead quietly circled around them, directly entering the inner space of the Demon Ceiling Pagoda. As soon as he entered, Yi Fei heard Yi Jian scolding loudly. "A bunch of brats. Haven't you eaten yet? Run faster. Whoever slacks off won't have anything to eat today. Uncle Jian, we will work hard to cultivate and win glory for the family Yi. We are all good children of the family Yi." A group of youths were sweating profusely. They were carrying huge rocks on their backs and training themselves. Yi Jian and a few elders of the family, you were supervising them from the side. After not seeing each other for more than 2 years, Yi Fei realized that Yi Jian's strength had improved very quickly. He was already at the first level of the martial arts Grandmaster realm. However, Bai Ling and Zhuang Ling were the fastest. They had both refined the talent crystals Yi Fei had given them. Even if they hadn't reached the Earth grade, they were all at least Black grade 10. This kind of talent was nothing in the Holy Land. However, in small places like the family Yi and Tianyinwufu, they were already amazing geniuses. In addition, before the Demon King left, he had specially taught them martial arts. This was a great help to the cultivation of the family Yi in Wu province. "Master, you're finally back." The first person Yi Fei sensed when he entered was Feng Xinyang. After all, she had a contract with Yi Fei. Therefore, she sensed Yi Fei the moment he entered. "What? Yi Fei is back. Young master is finally back. The heavens have eyes. The bitter days of the Demon Ceiling Pagoda are finally over." Seeing that Yi Fei had returned, the disciples of the family Yi in Wu province were all in tears. Although the Demon Ceiling Pagoda was very safe, it was very boring to be trapped in one place all the time. "Brat, you're finally willing to come back." Yi Jian, Yi Bufan, the old mansion master, and the others all rushed over. Yi Fei also greeted these elders one by one. Then he looked at Bai Ling and Zhuang Ling and nodded. "Sister Bai Ling, Zhuang Ling it seems that you've improved a lot during this period. You're already at the 3rd level of the martial arts Grandmaster realm. Yi Fei, no matter how much we've improved, we can't compare to you. I can't even sense your cultivation level now," Bai Ling said curiously. Zhuang Ling looked at Yi Fei shyly and called out, "Brother Yi Fei." Obviously, after 2 years of calming down, although Zhuang Ling no longer had a crush on Yi Fei, she was still a little shy when she thought of Yi Fei. "Ahem, Yi Fei, what's your cultivation level now?" The old mansion master looked at Yi Fei from all angles. He was a 3rd level martial honorable realm cultivator, but he still couldn't see his exact cultivation level. "It's nothing. I just broke through to the 7th level of the martial king realm not long ago." Yi Fei scratched his head embarrassedly. However, He didn't know that his words shocked many people present. What? Seventh level of the Martial King realm? Doesn't this mean that from now on, our family you will have a Martial King expert guarding it? Young master, we love you. The group of girls from the family, ye all looked at Yi Fei with adoration. Some of the bolder ones even threw seductive looks at Yi Fei, making Yi Fei feel very awkward. It seemed that the atmosphere of the family Yi wasn't rectified enough. After chatting with everyone for a while, Yi Fei urged, "All right, Uncle Jian, let's go out first. Everyone get ready. I'll bring you out of the demon's ceiling pagoda now." What? We can go out now? Don't we have to wait for 3 years? Young master, will we be a burden to you if we go out now? Everyone was happy to hear that they could go out. However, they were afraid that the family Ye's strength was too weak. Not only would they not be able to help Yi Fei, they would also be a burden to Yi Fei. Yi Fei laughed when he heard this. He waved his hand and said, "Everyone, don't worry. Now that Elder Sword Maniac has stepped into the path of a Sword Saint, and the Heavenly Een cult has been destroyed, our family, ye can do whatever we want in the entire North Sea." All right, it's not just the North Sea. Then, Yi Fei told everyone about how he went to Baiyang country, participated in the Earth ranking, and was conferred the title of Sword King of the North Sea. Grand Elder Yi Chao was scared silly on the spot. He pulled at his white beard with all his strength and fell to his knees with a plop. He wailed, "Ancestors, please forgive us. Our family, Yi has finally made a great leap and was conferred the title of Sword King of the North Sea. This is all thanks to Yi Fei." After crying, the old man pointed at the elders and disciples of the family, Yi who had bullied and looked down on Yi Fei in the past. He scolded, "Look at you, all of you good-for-nothings. If it wasn't for this old man supporting Yi Fei, would our family Yi be where it is today? Ahem, Grand Elder, please don't mention the past. We were born with a pair of dog eyes. Haven't we already reflected on our mistakes?" Many of the elders of the family, Yi were red in the face. Yi Fei had become the Sword King of the North Sea and brought glory to their ancestors. It should have been an honor for all the disciples of the family Yi. However, after being scolded by Yi Chao, many of them had ashamed expressions on their faces. Yi Fei wasn't a petty person, so he waved his hand and said, "Grand Elder, let bygones be bygones. As long as the family Yi works together in the future, everything will be fine. By the way, this is my reward for being first on the Earth ranking. It's 100 Earth Spirit Pills. It can raise any cultivator's talent to Earth Grade 1. Yi Bufan, how do you use these pills? Distribute them according to your contributions in the future." Chapter 518. Taking up his post in the end, he wasn't stingy, but that didn't mean that Yi Fei wouldn't hold a grudge. After 3 years of low times, Yi Fei had seen too much ugliness and injustice in the family Yi. That was why Yi Fei gave this precious pill to Yi Bufan to distribute. It also showed that he valued these people who joined the family Yi later. Sure enough, when Yi Fei did this, all the branch family members of the family Yi cheered wildly. On the side of the family Yi, many disciples and elders felt even more regretful. If only they had treated Yi Fei better back then. If only they hadn't ridiculed Yi Fei like that when Yi Fei was low. But there were no ifs in this world. Yi Fei didn't take things too far. At the same time, he also gave these branch family members of the family Yi a chance. That was if Yi Jian and Yi Bufan both judged that these people had truly turned over a new leaf, they would also receive an Earth Spirit pill. This made the elders and disciples of the family Yi cheer as well. In the end, when Yi Fei took out the round shield made from the embryo of the sacred artifact and handed it to Yi Jian, the cheers suddenly stopped. The embryo of the sacred artifact, as expected of the young master. He can even bring back such a treasure. Isn't that so? Last time, the young master brought back a top-grade treasure, the golden sword. We were so envious that we drooled. This time, even the embryo of the sacred artifact came out. My family Yi is going to prosper. TSK. As long as the young master is here, it's hard for my family Yi and Tianyan Wufu not to prosper. The disciples of the family Yi and the elders of Tianyun Wufu all cheered excitedly. During the 2 years in the demon ceiling tower, Tianyun Wufu and the family Yi were already inseparable. The devil ceiling pagoda had suppressed the devil emperor for 3,000 years, but had been completely refined by the devil emperor and turned into a personal treasure. As Yi Fei led the members of family Yi out of the demon ceiling pagoda, the treasures had their own spirit. Rumble. The entire Zhao kingdom and even the 18 northern sea nations were shaken violently. A tall pagoda rose from the ground, flew into the sky, and rushed into the vast, starry sky of the universe. It's the demon ceiling tower. It actually rushed into the universe? What the hell is going on? Many sects in the North Sea were trembling with fear. They had no idea what was going on. In the Taishan Holy Land, many cultivators also sensed the abnormality of the demon ceiling tower. They all gathered around Elder Sword Maniac. Sacred Master, it's that demon ceiling pagoda. It actually flew away. It doesn't matter. What should come will come, and what should go will go. Looking at the time, Yi Fei should be back soon. Sword Maniac Elder looked at the distant sky with a smile on his face. Yi Fei. When the elders of the Taishan Holy Land heard Yi Fei's name, pride and satisfaction flashed across their faces. This time, Yi Fei had won first place on the Earth list and had really made the Taishan Holy Land famous in the Northern Sea Nation. There were even warriors from the Northern Sea Nation who had come to join the Taishan Holy Land. This was the beginning of the Taishan Holy Land's prosperity. At this time, no elder doubted that Yi Fei would lead the Taishan Holy Land to glory. Even before Yi Fei returned to the Taishan Holy Land, countless elders and disciples of the Taishan Holy Land were already looking forward to Yi Fei's return. However, Yi Fei did not stay in the Taishan Holy Land for long. He first asked Yi Jian and Yi Bufan to lead the members of family Yi to the North Sea Pass in advance. Then, Yi Fei returned to the Taishan Holy Land alone and secretly talked with Elder Sword Maniac for a long time. No one knew what the two of them talked about. When he left the Taishan Holy Land, Yi Fei already had a map to the heaven-forsaken land in his hands. Beside him were Jin Jizi and the Frenzied Blade Elder, 2 experts of the 10th level of the Martial King realm. However, now Jin Jizi and the Frenzied Blade Elder did not dare to call themselves elders in front of Yi Fei. Now, Yi Fei's status was very ordinary. He was not only a disciple of the Taishan Holy Land, but also the North Sea Sword King who had been appointed by the King of the Northern Sea. The King of the Northern Sea's meaning was very clear. In the future, not only Beihai Pass, but the entire North Sea would be Yi Fei's fiefdom as long as Yi Fei had the ability to deal with the 18 countries of the North Sea and persuade the Taishan Holy Land. However, the Taishan Holy Land was easy to persuade. It would be too difficult to persuade the 18 countries of the North Sea to give up the throne and submit to Yi Fei in a short time. The old master Jian has given me a difficult problem. I don't even have control of Beihai Pass. So how can I control the 18 countries of the North Sea? I'm afraid that as soon as I speak, the royal families of these countries will rebel on the spot. Yi Fei recalled his conversation with the Sword Maniac Elder last night and smiled bitterly. Jin Jizi and the Frenzied Blade Elder, who had followed him to Beihai Pass, could not help but laugh when they heard this. Jin Jizi said, "Holy Son, what are you worried about? The Sword Maniac Holy Master, not helping you this time, is actually a kind of training for you." The Frenzied Blade Elder also laughed and said, "Yi Fei, you are not only the North Sea Sword King now, but also the future Holy Master of the Taishan Holy Land. Whether you are the North Sea Sword King or the Taishan Holy Master, you must not only be able to fight, but also be able to use tactics and handle government affairs. Only then can you be considered a qualified Holy Master. Handle government affairs." Damn it, elders, do I look like someone who handles government affairs? Yi Fei almost vomited blood when he heard this. Hee, don't you still have us old guys to help you? Anyway, since you're the North Sea Sword King, you'll have a lot of things to deal with every day. If you can't even solve this little problem, how will you manage the entire North Sea in the future? The frenzied blade elder comforted Yi Fei with a smile. At this moment, Jean Jeezy was silent for a while, then suddenly said in a serious tone, Yi Fei, you don't have to worry about the North Sea. You should be worried about Beihai Pass. There are a few sects here that are not inferior to our Taishan Holy Land. It's just that they have never had a holy master before. This time, you suddenly became the North Sea Sword King without their consent. These sects will definitely have opinions in their hearts. Counter soldiers with arms, water with an earth weir. Don't I have the help of the two elders here? Yi Fei had learned to be smart. Jean Jeezy and the frenzied blade elder in front of him were both experts of the 10th Martial King realm. Not only were they experienced and knowledgeable, they were also shrewd with age. Yi Fei did not have the time to take care of mundane matters like government affairs. It was better to leave it to the two elders. Sensing Yi Fei's intention, the frenzied blade elder and Jean Jeezy were very angry. This kid is unteachable. Jean Jeezy was angry when he saw that Yi Fei was still going to leave it to him. Jean Jeezy, don't be angry. With Yi Fei's skills, not to mention you, even the Holy Master can't teach him. Young people should be more willful. Let him go to the ends of the earth. As for us old guys, it's enough to guard the house. The frenzied blade elder was very open-minded. After all, he was like Yi Fei, a battle maniac. This made Jean Jeezy depressed. Chatting along the way, the three of them soon arrived at Beihai Pass. However, they did not see the expected scene of officials lining the streets to welcome them. Instead, the city gate was closed. On top of the city wall, there were many soldiers and horses, as if they were facing a great enemy. Chapter 519. Qiang's sect. The situation in the North Sea Pass was worse than Yi Fei had expected. On the way, he knew that the local forces in the North Sea Pass might not welcome him taking control of the North Sea Pass, nor would they tolerate the Taishan Holy Land stepping into the North Sea Pass to compete with them for benefits. But protests were just protests. Closing the city gates and forbidding family Yi from entering Beihai Pass was too much. How dare you? Beihai Sword Monarch is here. Why don't you come out to welcome him? Why are you closing the city gates and preventing him and his family from entering? Jean Jeezy was the most furious. After all, Yi Fei was not only the prince of Beiyang country, but also the holy son of Taishan Holy Land. If Yi Fei was humiliated, Taishan Holy Land would be humiliated. Hearing Jean Jeezy's words and sensing his martial king's strength, the soldiers on the city wall were in an uproar. After all, he was a martial king. His Majesty had personally given him the title of Beihai, Sword Monarch. Many generals subconsciously looked at the old men in the middle of the city wall. These old men were all wearing the uniform of the sect. Hearing Jean Jeezy's words, their faces were filled with anger. One of the old men couldn't hold it in any longer. He rushed out and shouted, Jean Jeezy, you're talking nonsense. What Beihai Sword Monarch? How come we've never heard of him? We've received news that Yi Fei of Taishan Holy Land killed him. Murdering the Beihai Sword Monarch is a crime punishable by death. It's a pity that the North Sea King has so much to do every day. He's worked so hard for our North Sea King for decades, and yet he ended up like this. We must seek justice for him. Another old man stood out and shouted, That's right, seek justice. As if they had discussed this beforehand, everyone on the city wall shouted. It really did seem like this was the case. It's not just the Scorching Sun sect. Even the 5-poison cultivator of the 5-poison sect has joined in. These two are both LV10 experts like us. Jean Jeezy stepped back unwillingly. Frenzied Sword expression was also very unpleasant. He was so angry that his body trembled as he said, Wow, looks like 5 Venoms and Flaming Sun sect are determined to stop our holy land from entering North Sea Pass. They're even slandering Yi Fei for causing the North Sea King's death. It's not slander. Speaking of which, I killed the Lord of Beihai's son. The Lord of Beihai was almost killed by me. Yi Fei walked out. With just a few words, Jean Jeezy and Wild Blade nearly spat out blood. Wasn't Yi Fei's words just giving the enemy an excuse to oppose him? Everyone present was a warrior. When they heard Yi Fei's words, everyone was stunned. No one had expected Yi Fei to admit it directly. It's you. Did you really kill the king of Beihai? Both the old devil and 5 poisons were ecstatic. They exchanged a smug look and felt that Yi Fei was too stupid and inexperienced. Such a naive kid wanted to become the North Sea Sword King? This was simply a joke. Some of the elders from the Flaming Sun sect and 5 Venom sect were already mocking Yi Fei. However, there were even more people who continued to act according to what they had discussed beforehand and began to curse at Yi Fei. Yi Fei, you're too ambitious. Not only did you kill the king of Beihai, but you also want to take over our North Sea Pass. Even if you have a title from His Majesty, we will never agree. That's right. North Sea Pass belongs to Beiyang. It doesn't belong to you country bumpkins from the North Sea. Get out. Get out of North Sea Pass. The person who killed the king of Beihai doesn't deserve to be the king of North Sea Pass. Frenzied Sword and Jean Jeezy were really anxious when they heard the curses of countless people on the city wall. Hey, Yi Fei, you're still too young and impulsive. How can you admit to something like this? Isn't this giving the enemy an excuse to attack us? Why can't I admit it? I did kill the king of Beihai, but that was because he wanted to kill me first. He was unlucky to be killed by the Flood Dragon. As for these noisy old dogs, even if they join forces to attack me, so what? As Yi Fei spoke, his body faintly revealed a domineering aura. After all, he was no longer the weak warrior he used to be. Since this group of people was determined to oppose him entering North Sea Pass, any superfluous words would be futile. In that case, there was only one path left. Whoever wants to avenge the king of Beihai, step forward. Today I'll fight with you. Yi Fei stood with his hands behind his back, his body surging with an astonishing battle and killing intent. After all, this was the world of warriors. Compared to negotiating with this group of people, a battle was more direct. Jean Jeezy and Frenzied Sword were completely stunned. Yi Fei actually wanted to challenge all the enemies in North Sea Pass. This move was too domineering, but also too impulsive. This bastard kid, he thinks he's invincible just because he's ranked first on the Earth list. How can he fight against so many martial kings alone? Frenzied Sword was furious. Jean Jeezy's expression was also very ugly. It should be known that North Sea Pass didn't only have 2 10th level martial kings, 5 poisons, and Scarlet Sunday. There was another 10th level martial king on the city wall who had yet to speak. There were more than 10 martial king experts gathered around. Even if Jean Jeezy and Frenzied Sword worked together, they wouldn't be a match for such a powerful force, let alone Yi Fei, who was alone. Yi Fei, what are you trying to do? Jean Jeezy said, as he was about to step forward with Frenzied Sword. Yi Fei laughed and waved his hand. Elders, don't come up. They're just a bunch of useless people. I can deal with them alone. What a bunch of useless people. Junior, aren't you looking down on us too much? This time, even the last 10th level martial king on the city wall couldn't stand it anymore. He moved and stood side by side with 5 poisons and Scarlet Sunday. Behind them were more than 20 martial king experts. Obviously, in order to prevent Yi Fei from becoming the sword monarch of North Sea Pass, the sects and clans of North Sea Pass had put in a lot of effort. Kid, you said you wanted to challenge all of us alone? Humph, you overestimate yourself. No matter how strong you are, I don't believe you're stronger than all of us combined. All the martial kings were furious. A terrifying aura locked onto Yi Fei. Yi Fei's expression didn't change. He faced this aura and suddenly took a step forward. He said in a deep voice, "Cut the crap. If you want to fight, let's fight. I can even defeat Lin Tianjiao. Do you think I'm afraid of you old dogs? Besides, even if I can't defeat all of us now with my talent, I'll definitely reach the peak of Martial King in 3 years at most. I might even become an unrivaled Martial King or even an unrivaled Sage Ruler. At that time, I'll come and fight with all of you again. Let's see who can stop me then." Boom! Yi Fei took another step forward. This step not only shook the sky, but also the hearts of all the martial artists in North Sea Pass. Who was Lin Tianjiao? He was one of the strongest geniuses in the North region. He was the idol of all the young martial artists in the North region. However, such a person had lost to Yi Fei. Chapter 520. Not giving face. Many cultivators realized in horror that they might have forced Yi Fei to leave now. But if Yi Fei was given a few years to grow to Lin Tianjiao's level, by the time Yi Fei returned, Beihai Pass wouldn't be able to withstand him. Ordinary martial kings like them wouldn't be able to defeat him either. At that time, with how they had offended Yi Fei, it was possible that their clan and sect would be annihilated. Gasp! The North Sea Sword Monarch wasn't someone to be offended so easily. Hearing Yi Fei's words, the expressions of the 20 or so martial kings who had been lusting after Yi Fei all changed. Almost at the same time that Yi Fei stepped forward, many of them were so scared that they hurriedly took a few steps back. Then, their faces turned red as they looked at the three old men leading the group. Sectmaster, what should we do? Why don't we join forces and kill the North Sea Sword Monarch to prevent future trouble? Do you want to die? Don't forget who appointed Yi Fei as the North Sea Sword Monarch. Killing Yi Fei would be like slapping the Beiyang King in the face. Do you want us to wipe out our sect now? Damn it, I didn't expect Yi Fei to be so tricky and cunning. But he's right. Even if we chase him away now and don't let him take over Beihai Pass, we'll be the ones in trouble once he grows stronger. A person's name was like a tree's shadow. Lin Tianjiao was one of the strongest geniuses in the northern region. His strength was deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Even many of the older generation experts were fearful when they mentioned him. Although the martial kings present didn't believe that Yi Fei could defeat Lin Tianjiao, they still knew about the rumors of Yi Fei forcing Lin Tianjiao to leave and taking first place on the Earth Roll. Suddenly, Qi Yang and 5 Poisons, who had been aggressive and prepared to use force to force Yi Fei, turned pale. They didn't dare to attack, nor did they dare to retreat. They were forced into a dilemma by Yi Fei's empty warning. Qi Yang, it's all your fault. Now we've offended a genius like the North Sea Sword Monarch. Even if we chase him away now, how many years can we stay in Beihai Pass? 5 Poisons, are you blaming me? When we proposed to stop Yi Fei, your 5 Poisons sect was very enthusiastic. Stop arguing, the two of you. Even if the Sword Monarch of the North Sea is a true genius like Lin Tianjiao, it would be too embarrassing for our 3 great sects to surrender just because of a few words from him. The last old man stopped the two from arguing. Nanhua, 5 Poisons, brother Nanhua, Nanhua's Nanhua. Nanhua, the divine fist sect's Nanhua. Nanhua smiled bitterly and looked at Yi Fei with fear. After a brief discussion, Nanhua was the one to step forward. She flew to Yi Fei and sighed. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Sword King of the North Sea, you were right. Even if we stop you now, we may not be able to stop you in a few years. However, if you want us to recognize your position, you have to agree to one of our conditions. You don't have the right to talk terms with me. Either you fight or you submit. These are the only 2 options. Yi Fei said coldly. Jean Jeezy and Frenzied Blade, who had been worried, gave Yi Fei a thumbs up. They felt that Yi Fei's words were too domineering. The Taishan Holy Land had been weak for so long, and now it could finally stand tall and speak loudly. North Sea Sword Monarch, you. The North Sea Sword Monarch's face was ugly. He had not expected Yi Fei to be so domineering and not give them any face. They did not think that if they gathered so many people to stop Yi Fei, it would be even more excessive. Yi Fei would not be polite to them. Brother Nanhua, don't be rash. The 5 Poisons cultivator saw that things were going to turn ugly. He and Qi Yang smiled bitterly. Seeing that they could not use force against Yi Fei, they had to use a soft approach. Otherwise, if they angered Yi Fei and offended Yi Fei too much, when Yi Fei grew up in a few years, they would have to bear the brunt of Yi Fei's anger. North Sea Sword Monarch, please calm down. We're not negotiating with you, but making a request. Look, since you're in control of Beihai Pass, You should get rid of that troublesome flood dragon for the sake of the people and kill it. Otherwise, we wouldn't dare to open the city gates and let you in. Old ghost Qiyang compromised for the time being. Yifei looked at the three of them with a half-smile. He knew that they did not dare to do it themselves, but they wanted to use the flood dragon to benefit from it. That's what you said. If I kill the flood dragon, all the sects and families in Beihai Pass will have to submit to me. Yifei said coldly. He did not reject the proposal. After all, it was not enough to make these powerful sects submit to him. The most important thing was to show them his strength that they could not resist. Of course, as long as the North Sea Sword King can kill the evil serpent, our three sects and all the troops in the North Sea Pass will obey the Sword King's orders unconditionally. The three sect leaders vowed solemnly, but there was a hint of disdain in their eyes. Obviously, even if Yi Fei could force Lin Tianjiao to retreat, they did not think that Yi Fei could defeat the Flood Dragon. At the same time, they hoped to use the Flood Dragon to teach Yi Fei a lesson. It would be best if both sides were injured. Then, their chance would come. Yi Fei don't agree. That Flood Dragon can even kill the North Sea King. It won't be easy to deal with, Jean Jeezy whispered. It's fine. I just happen to have a grudge with that Flood Dragon to settle. Don't forget, I have a sacred artifact on me. Yi Fei also transmitted his voice. Jean Jeezy and Frenzied Blade were speechless. They looked at each other and smiled bitterly. They had worried about Yi Fei for so long, but it turned out that they were worried for nothing. Come with me. Yi Fei did not say much. After they reached an agreement, Yi Fei rushed into the sky and flew toward the cold pond where the Flood Dragon was hiding. He's going to kill that Flood Dragon now. Nanhua was shocked. Hee, we're in for a good show. That Flood Dragon's strength is not what it used to be. Even with the three of us working together, we could only force it to retreat and not kill it. This time, the North Sea Sword King might even be killed by the Flood Dragon. The five-poison cultivator laughed sinisterly. Qiyang shook his head. He probably won't be killed. After all, Yi Fei is a genius on the same level as Lin Tianjiao. However, he hasn't grown up yet. It's unlikely that he'll die in battle, but it's inevitable that he'll be injured. That's hard to say. Even if Yi Fei is a genius, it's not rare for a genius to die in an accident. The five-poison cultivator's eyes were gloomy, and his smile was even more sinister. Nanhua and Qiyang's eyes also flashed with light. Faintly, they already understood the five poison's freak's intentions. Let's go. Following the orders of the three sect masters, the 20 or so martial kings behind them all followed Yi Fei at their fastest speed and rushed towards the cold pond. However, Yi Fei was too fast. Before the people behind him could catch up, Yi Fei had already appeared above the cold pond. Last time, he couldn't fight back against the rampaging Flood Dragon and could only run. This time, he would not allow it to happen again. Chapter 521. How terrifying. Roar. Following the angry dragon roar, the Flood Dragon hidden in the cold pond roared and charged out. It looked at Yi Fei as if it was looking at a huge enemy. It roared continuously as if it was saying, "You little thief, you dare to come back after stealing my ancestor's dragon body. Give me your life." As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes will turn red. Not to mention, this enemy in front of him was the thief who stole his cold chi and took away his opportunity. It should be known that during the time Yi Fei was away, the Flood Dragon had been dreaming every day, grinding its teeth, just so that when it met Yi Fei again, it would swallow this despicable human thief whole. For this reason, the serpent would often go to the North Sea Pass to cause trouble, causing the sects and clans in the North Sea Pass to be restless. They could only work together to drive the enraged serpent away. The reason why the three sects sent Yi Fei to kill the serpent this time was because they hoped that there would be an expert who could take care of the serpent that was wreaking havoc in the North Sea Pass. Rumble. The icy lake exploded and the serpent rushed out. The serpent had become more ferocious after not seeing it for a while. The horn on its forehead had completely turned into a dragon horn. The serpent opened its huge mouth and shot an icy dragon breath at Yi Fei without saying a word. The terrifying, icy chi froze the ground instantly. Hailstones started to fall in the hot weather, as if they wanted to pierce through Yi Fei's body. A serious look flashed across Yi Fei's face. It had only been a year since they last met, and the serpent had reached the 10th layer Martial King realm. Its combat strength was almost on par with the invincible Heavenly Kings. No wonder the 3 sect leaders wanted to use this serpent to deal with me. Unfortunately, I'm not weak either. Battle Demon Golden Body. Yi Fei's body glowed brightly. He was like a golden sun as he soared into the sky and charged at the serpent. The serpent's dragon breath could not stop Yi Fei. Yi Fei raised his sword finger and slashed forward. The serpent's dragon breath was cut in half, and a huge crack appeared on the ice on the ground. The 3 sect masters who had rushed over from the back just happened to see this scene. Their eyes widened in disbelief. They were shocked by Yi Fei's terrifying sword chi. He cut the dragon breath in half. Is he really only a 7th layer Martial King realm? The 5 poison cultivator was shocked. Humph! He is indeed Lin Tianjiao. Unfortunately, the serpent's dragon breath is not its dragon chi. The Qiang old ghost said coldly. Oh no, what's wrong with the serpent? It went berserk. Nanhua was astonished. The other Martial Kings saw this and felt that it was indeed the case. They wondered if the serpent had eaten the wrong medicine. A 10th layer Martial King was fighting a 7th layer Martial King realm. As soon as the serpent saw Yi Fei, it went berserk. Haha! Jin Jizi, the serpent has gone berserk. If it doesn't kill its enemy, it will not turn back. Are you going to watch Yi Fei die? The 5 poison cultivator suddenly reminded Jin Jizi and the frenzied blade old man. Humph! The 5 poison cultivator. Do you think the holy son of the Holy Land is as useless as you? Even if there were 10 more of these serpents, they would not be able to harm the holy sun. Jin Jizi retorted. The frenzied blade old man also kept sneering. He was not worried about Yi Fei at all. This caused the 3 sect masters and all the martial kings present to be shocked. Facing 10 berserk flood dragons, Yi Fei was not afraid at all. Was this a joke? Does he really think he is Lin Tianjiao? A martial king mocked. That's not right. The Northern Sea Sword King is actually suppressing the serpent. Some martial kings noticed the situation in the sky and could not help but exclaim. Everyone looked at the scene in the sky with incomparable shock. Facing the berserk serpent, even a 10th layer martial king realm expert would be scared out of his wits. But what did they see? They saw a golden figure punching the serpent in the sky. Roar! 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 The serpent's furious roars could be heard everywhere. It was furious. Its huge claws, teeth, and even horns were all aimed at Yi Fei. But the terrifying thing was that the human in front of it was like an indestructible diamond. No matter how the serpent attacked, it was unable to harm Yi Fei. On the other hand, every time Yi Fei punched out, there would be a rumbling sound. Wherever he punched, the scales of the serpent would crack and a huge bloody hole would appear on its body. The blood of the serpent fell from the sky like rain. The frenzied blade old man and Jin Jizi frowned. That was the blood of the serpent, which was very beneficial to cultivators. Yi Fei, my little ancestor, can you stop playing with it? If you continue fighting like this, how much blood will you lose? The frenzied blade old man was the most heartbroken. With so much blood, it was enough for him to refine another top-quality serpent slash for his disciple Yan Bei. What? Yi Fei is actually playing with the serpent? The frenzied blade old man's words shocked the 3 sect leaders once again. The other martial kings also looked at Yi Fei with strange expressions. It was obviously a 10th martial king realm serpent, but in front of Yi Fei, it did not even have the strength to fight back. Yi Fei only activated the War Demon Golden Body. His physical strength was enough to crush the serpent. With the strength of the War Demon Golden Body, the serpent was instantly disoriented and could not find its nest. Roar! The flood dragon was extremely cunning. seeing that its strongest dragon claw was unable to tear through Yi Fei's golden body defense. It could only sullenly charge towards the ground from the sky with anger and fear. It even used its fastest speed to rush down into the cold pond. The serpent did not believe that Yi Fei would dare to rush down into the cold lake to kill it. After all, the serpent was a creature of the water. No matter how strong a human martial artist was, he would definitely not be a match for the serpent in the water. Even so, when they saw that the serpent, which had once run amok in Beihai Pass and forced the three sects to join forces, was beaten into hiding by Yi Fei like a dog, the martial kings present all showed great fear in their eyes. The North Sea Sword Monarch is actually so strong. He is only a 7th Martial King Realm cultivator, and he can beat a 10th Martial King Realm serpent as if he is playing with a child. Oh no, the sect leader won't really want us to go against the North Sea Sword Monarch, right? There were also martial kings who secretly looked at the sect leaders' faces, only to find that the 3 sect leaders' faces were very dark. Originally, they had planned to use the serpent's strength to teach Yi Fei a lesson. They had even planned to make both sides suffer. But now, only fear and shock were left in the hearts of the 3 sect leaders. In his heart, he no longer had any thoughts of going against Yi Fei. This North Sea Sword Monarch is definitely a monster, just like Lin Tianjiao. The 5 Poison Cultivator's voice was trembling as he spoke. He recalled that on the way here, he had been planning to wait for Yi Fei and the serpent to injure each other so that he could take advantage of the situation. He could not help but feel a deep fear in his heart. If Nanhua or the old devil Qiyang told Yi Fei about his plan, his 5 Poison sect might be removed from Beihai Pass tomorrow. The more he thought about it, the more terrified he became. Suddenly, the 5 Poison Cultivator steeled his heart and knelt down in front of Yi Fei. He bowed deeply and said, "The North Sea Sword Monarch is invincible. The old and decrepit is willing to lead the 5 Poison sect under the Sword Monarch's command. If I have second thoughts, may the heavens and earth destroy me. Old devil 5 Poison, you cunning old man." Chapter 522. Subduing the Flood Dragon under the stunned gazes of Wild Blade and Jean Jeezy. The 3 sect masters and more than 20 Martial King experts all knelt before Yi Fei and swore their loyalty. This was undoubtedly a shocking scene. Who would have thought that the 3 sect masters, who had been unwilling to accept Yi Fei and secretly plotting against Yi Fei, would suddenly change their attitudes and anxiously pledge their loyalty to Yi Fei? But thinking about it, this was inevitable. What was Yi Fei's talent? The 3 sect masters had all seen the battle between Yi Fei and the Flood Dragon. Those who could become sect masters were no fools. They had seen the Flood Dragon, which was extremely troublesome in their eyes, being played by Yi Fei like a punching bag. If they didn't surrender now and work hard to repair their relationship with Yi Fei, once Yi Fei grew into the second Lin Tianjiao, they wouldn't have a chance to rely on him. Sigh. Who would have thought that the problem at Beihai Pass would be solved so easily? I thought we would have a big battle and show off the power of our Taishan Holy Land. Wild Blade was very regretful. As a battle maniac, he felt uncomfortable without a fight. Jean Jeezy was very shocked. He stared blankly at the sky. What is Yi Fei doing? Is he planning to enter the cold pond? Cold pond? That's impossible. That cold pond is extremely cold. Even a 10th layer Martial King would be frozen if he went in, even if he is the North Sea Sword King. Rumble, accompanied by a huge wave, the fleeing Flood Dragon and the pursuing Yi Fei turned into 2 beams of light and charged into the cold pool one after the other. The North Sea Sword King really rushed in. The Flood Dragon's battle strength is doubled underwater. Qiyang and Nanhua were very shocked, as expected of the North Sea Sword King. Even that Lin Tianjiao is only SOSO. Fortunately, I reacted quickly and was the first to pledge my loyalty to the North Sea Sword King. The 5 Poisons Cultivator wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. He was even more afraid of Yi Fei now. Because the temperature of the cold pond was too low, none of the Martial Kings present had the ability to hide in it. Thus, The group could only surround the cold pond and wait quietly. Jean, Jeezy, and Wildblade were even more anxious. They were afraid that something would happen to Yi Fei. Of course, they were so anxious that they didn't expect that Yi Fei would not only did he not feel any discomfort after entering the cold pond, but a layer of mysterious scales quickly appeared on his body. The scales immediately allowed Yi Fei. He could move freely in the water, the cold chi, and the cold waters of the cold pond. Roar! The flood dragon that was hiding in the water also turned around at the first moment. It wanted to come back and teach Yi Fei a lesson. It might not be able to defeat this abominable human in the sky, but in the water, it was the Flood Dragon clan's world. No matter how strong a human was, it had no need to be afraid. The huge flood dragon's tail swayed, and huge waves rolled in the water, forming an invisible killing force that slammed forward. Good timing. I haven't tested the might of the ancient beast mark on me yet. Let me test it on you. Boom. After the transformation, Yi Fei lost his war demon golden body. However, Yi Fei was still not afraid. He had a feeling that the scales armor on his body might be even more terrifying than the war demon golden body's defense. Thus, Yi did not hesitate to throw out a punch. He punched forward and collided heavily with the flood dragon's dragon tail. As expected, Yi Fei's fist was not injured at all. The scales armor on his body gave him the perfect protection. The pitiful flood dragon was beaten up like a dog by Yi Fei in the sky. It had escaped into the cold pond with great difficulty. It thought that it would be able to kill Yi Fei once it returned to the main battlefield. In the end, it was still suppressed by Yi Fei. Roar! 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 The flood dragon's angry, shocked, and fearful roars resounded throughout the water. Seeing that it was not a match for Yi Fei, even though it was best at water battles, the flood dragon's claws began to tremble in fear. It was not afraid of being killed by Yi Fei. Instead, it felt an extremely terrifying pressure from Yi Fei's scales armor. It was this pressure that made the flood dragon, who was good at water battles, feel weak and numb in front of Yi Fei. It could not even use 50% of its combat strength. Yi Fei naturally felt the flood dragon's weakness. He immediately stopped beating the flood dragon in dissatisfaction. He then pointed at the flood dragon and scolded, "What's wrong with you, flood dragon? You should have increased your combat strength after returning to the water. Why are you not as strong as when you were fighting in the sky? Could it be that you are tired? Let's stop for a while and wait for you to recover before we continue fighting." With that, Yi Fei really stopped attacking. He sat cross-legged in the deep pool and waited for the flood dragon to recover its strength. Hearing these words and seeing Yi Fei's calm and composed movements, the flood dragon could no longer hold back its tears. The serpent dragon finally could not hold it in any longer. 2 drops of dragon tears rolled down its cheeks. The serpent dragon was not stupid, as it was able to reach the 10th layer Martial King realm. When it saw the noble and mysterious scales on Yi Fei's body, it was stunned. Finally, the flood dragon made a decision. It rolled its belly and realized that it could not defeat Yi Fei, nor could it escape. It did not want to die, so it could only submit to Yi Fei. "Damn, you've actually submitted to me." Yi Fei was shocked. He only wanted to use the flood dragon to practice the use of his beast mark. In the end, the flood dragon actually submitted to him. Yi Fei was speechless. The man and the flood dragon looked at each other. The more they looked at each other, the more the flood dragon could feel the fear and pressure from Yi Fei's scales armor. In front of Yi Fei, who was covered in scales armor, the flood dragon felt as weak as a loach. The flood dragon even suspected that Yi Fei might not be a human, but a divine dragon that had descended to the mortal world. Roar, roar! The flood dragon did not dare to be careless. It quickly shrunk its body and kept bowing to Yi Fei, hoping that Yi Fei would forgive its offense. This time, it was Yi Fei's turn to be in a difficult position. He expected the flood dragon to resist, but he did not expect it to submit. This was a bit difficult. "You really want to submit to me?" Roar. "How do I know that you are sincere? What if you betray me after you go out or when I'm not around?" Yi Fei said coldly. The The flood dragon was also dumbfounded. It did not know how to continue communicating with Yi Fei. At this time, the little girl crawled out of the beast mark and waved her hands. Yi Fei's eyes lit up. Xiao Xiao, do you have a solution? Xiao Xiao. The flood dragon widened its big eyes and looked at the little girl who came out of the beast mark in shock. With its knowledge, of course it knew that this was an extraordinary spiritual item. In the end, Yi Fei actually treated it as a blade of grass. Naturally, the flood dragon looked at Yi Fei with even more fear. Xiao Xiao also rolled her eyes in dissatisfaction. She was too lazy to fight with Yi Fei. She opened her mouth and inhaled. Whoosh! The chilly air that filled the entire cold pond was absorbed by the little girl with a casual breath. Then, the little girl patted her bulging belly in distress and waved her hand at the flood dragon, indicating for it to pass. It was strange. The flood dragon had always been known for its cruelty. When it felt the little girl's spiritual item aura, it actually swam over hesitantly. It was afraid that its movements would be too big and hurt the little girl. The little girl was very satisfied with the flood dragon's actions. She even patted the flood dragon's head as if she was patting a pet. Finally, she drew a strange symbol on the flood dragon's forehead. The flood dragon roared excitedly. The symbol on its forehead suddenly turned into a stream of light and entered Yi Fei's beast mark. Greetings, Master. I have offended you in the past. Please forgive me. The flood dragon's voice sounded in Yi Fei's mind. Chapter 5:23. Wang Bai's letter. The changes in the cold pond couldn't be hidden from the many martial king realm masters who were waiting outside. It's strange. The chilly energy in the cold pond is disappearing rapidly. This flood dragon is hard to deal with because the chilly energy in the cold pond is too strong. Now that the chilly energy is gone, we can all go down. No, the evil flood dragon is coming out. Everyone, spread out and trap it with all your strength. Wait for His Highness the Sword King to come out and kill it. Seeing a huge shadow quickly emerging from the cold pond, the three faction masters who were eager to repair their relationship with Yi Fei immediately ordered their masters to stop the flood dragon. But soon, the martial king realm masters of the three factions were all dumbfounded. The evil flood dragon was coming out, but why was His Highness the Sword King standing on its head? Roar! The flood dragon, having survived the disaster, circled in the sky excitedly and allowed Yi Fei to stand on its head without attacking. Not only were the three faction masters dumbfounded, but Jin Jizi and Frenzied Sword Elder also opened their mouths in shock. Saint, you and the flood dragon are. Yi Fei slapped his head and flew down from the flood dragon. Elders, this flood dragon is quite tactful. It knows to abandon the dark and join the light. It has already submitted to me and will not continue to do evil. What? This evil flood dragon surrendered to the Sword King of North Sea. TSK. No wonder he's the Sword King of North Sea. I've decided to send the disciples of my faction to serve His Highness the Sword King. Before Yi Fei could say anything, the five-poison cultivator came over to join the fun. The Nanhua faction master and Qiyong old ghost gritted their teeth and hurried over to visit Yi Fei. They even strongly requested to send the best disciples of their factions to the Sword King mansion to serve Yi Fei. If Yi Fei didn't agree, they would have a hard time with Yi Fei. With the surrender of the three factions, Beihai Sea Pass was still under the instigation of some people, but it only took a little more time. 3 months later, the entire Beihai Pass was dominated by the Sword Mansion alone. The Taishin Holy Land had successfully entered the Beihai Pass and established a connection with the Beiyang Kingdom. With the help of the three major sects, Tianyan Wufu was also re-established in Beihai Pass and recruited disciples. Of course, the family Yi was the best developed. Yi Fei asked people to dig a big pond in the Swordmaster Mansion and raise the subdued flood dragon as a pet. He even gave it a nice name, Little Black. Yi Fei felt that the flood dragon liked this name very much, because when he gave it the name Xiao He, Xiaohe was so touched that it cried out on the spot, causing the entire Beihai Pass to rain heavily for an entire day. Of course, Yi Fei was most concerned about the development of family Yi. With the help of 100 Earth Spirit elixirs, the family Yi, including Yi Jian, Yi Bufan, Yi Chao, and Zhou Guang, had given birth to 100 masters with Earth-level talent. Yi Fei believed that as long as these masters grew up and broke through to martial venerables and martial lords, the strength of the entire family Yi would become even more powerful. 3 months later, something that made Yi Fei even happier happened. Sword Maniac Elder finally decided to send Jing Wushou, Shi Feng, Luo Shi, and other elites of the Taishan Holy Land to Beihai Pass to help Yi Fei manage the affairs of the mansion. The 10th Prince and Gu Man returned to their respective countries to persuade their father to give up the throne. Yi Fei vaguely felt that with the emergence of Wu Jun in the North Sea, it was no longer suitable for this small place to have many small countries. The most urgent thing for the North Sea now was to eliminate the boundaries of these small countries and completely unite the North Sea. Only in this way could the North Sea and the Taishan Holy Land become stronger. In the Sword Master Mansion, Yi Fei was instructing the disciples of the family Yi to cultivate martial arts. Sect Master Qian, what did you say? Someone gave you a letter and said it was written by an old friend of mine? Suddenly, old Devil Qian walked in with a letter. Seeing Yi Fei's puzzled look, old Devil Qian was even more puzzled. What's wrong? Isn't this letter from your Highness's friend? That's strange. That person clearly said that his name was Wang Bai. Wang Bai? Could it really be a letter from Wang Bai? But why didn't he come in person? Yi Fei was shocked. In the years that Wang Bai had been away, he had guessed Wang Bai's identity more than once. He had also sent people to inquire about Wang Bai, but they had all come up empty-handed. It was as if Wang Bai didn't exist. No one had heard of his name, and no one knew where he was. Unexpectedly, Wang Bai had sent someone to deliver a letter. Yi Fei couldn't wait to open the letter and read it. However, the first sentence almost made Yi Fei vomit blood. Don't even think about looking for me. I'm just a legend. Legend my ass. I've been missing for so many years, and you're done with just this sentence. Yi Fei was speechless. If it wasn't for the fact that this handwriting was Wang Bai's, he would have torn the letter apart. Wait, tear it apart. There was an extra layer in the letter. Yi Fei carefully shook the letter, and a palm-sized piece of animal skin fell out. It was stained with some unknown gray blood. Looking at the gray blood stain, Yi Fei couldn't help but shudder. Why did this bloodstain give him such a terrifying feeling? Old Devil Qiyang actually started to tremble when the animal skin fell out. He couldn't withstand the strange aura of the gray blood at all. Yi Fei's expression became more and more serious. Wang Bai couldn't have given him this animal skin for no reason. There must be something wrong with this thing. Sect Master Qiyang, do you still remember what the person who asked you to deliver the letter looked like? Where is he now? Yi Fei asked in a deep voice. Your Highness Sword Monarch, that person is in his 50s and is wearing a gray robe. As for his realm, I couldn't sense it. He left for the West Gate after giving me the letter. I couldn't catch up with him no matter how hard I tried. Qian the old ghost said, feeling extremely ashamed. At this moment, how could he not know that the person who wrote him the letter was definitely an otherworldly expert? Yi Fei was stunned when he heard this. He's in his 50s? Could not be Wang Bai. But why did he ask this person to deliver the letter to me? No, I have to ask him clearly. Yi Fei tore the void open with his bare hands and stepped out of the Sword Monarch mansion. He had already left the Beihai Pass. Just as he was about to head to the West Gate to search for clues, suddenly, an inexplicable sense of danger hit him. Who is it? Yi Fei was shocked. After half a year of reorganization, the entire Beihai Pass was now firmly under the control of the Sword Monarch mansion. He didn't expect that someone would secretly follow him when he just left the Sword Monarch mansion. If it wasn't for Xiao Chao's warning in the Beast Mark, he wouldn't have noticed it at all. It seems that after being Lord Taiping for half a year, my vigilance has been lowered a lot. Yi Fei secretly shook his head. He saw that the person hiding in the dark didn't show himself. He simply followed Xiao Chao's instructions and rushed into the sky not far away. Sky Demon Kill. Boom! A huge demon fist tore the void open and almost shattered the world. How is it possible? You're just a junior in the 8th Martial King realm. How could you find my hiding place? Chapter 524. The Blood Demon Great Commander. Under the illumination of this scarlet ball of light, even the sage grade martial technique, Heavenly Demon Kill, was not a match for it. Under the scarlet light, the huge demonic fist was completely melted away, not leaving behind any trace of quintessence. Blood Red Light, a technique of the Blood Demon sect. Yi Fei retreated cautiously as he looked at the man who had appeared in the sky. This person's face was like a devil's. His upper body was naked, and the blood vessels on his body were constantly twisting and glowing. It was as if what was hidden in each blood vessel wasn't blood, but a terrifying, murderous energy. You brat, since you know the reputation of my blood demon sect, why did you still kill Blood Yiksha? The person shouted as his cold gaze locked onto Yi Fei. Yi Fei found it funny. It was clearly Blood Yiksha who wanted to kill him first, but this person's tone made it sound like he was denouncing him. All right, I admit that you people from the Blood Demon sect are like ghosts that won't leave. You're like flies that can't be chased away. However, when it comes to reputation, do you think a rat that everyone in the central region is worthy of that reputation? If you have the ability, don't come to our northern region to show off. Scram back to the central region. Yi Fei shouted. The Blood Demon sect had repeatedly tried to assassinate him for no reason. Even a clay figurine would get angry, let alone Yi Fei. These words immediately made the Blood Demon Great Commander stomp his feet in anger. He pointed a trembling finger at Yi Fei, wanting to tear this brat's mouth apart. You brat. I originally wanted to take you in as a blood slave because you had some talent, but now I've changed my mind. I'll make you wish you were dead. Remember, the one who will kill you is me, the Blood Demon Great Commander. Blood Demon Great Commander? Damn, where did this Blood Demon Church get so many experts? Any one of them is either a martial king or an invincible martial king. Yi Fei felt the aura emitted by this person. How could he not know that this Blood Demon Great Commander was not only a 10th level martial king, but also a true invincible martial king like the 4 heavenly kings? With his current cultivation level, Yi Fei did not have to worry about an ordinary 10th level martial king. However, he did not have much confidence in facing an unrivaled martial king who had surpassed the 10th level. Hold on, you were sent by the Bai family. Has the Bai family already joined the Blood Demon sect? Yi Fei asked in a low voice as he continued to back away. Brat, do you think I will tell you? Not only did you kill Blood Yiksha, you also have the aura of consuming blood Bodhi. You deserve to die. This Blood Demon Grand Commander was truly formidable. Yi Fei had refined the blood Bodhi a year ago, but this person had seen through it with a single glance. His expression was unprecedentedly solemn. Before Yi Fei could come back to his senses, rumble, a terrifying blood cloud suddenly appeared above his head. This blood cloud was extremely terrifying. In the blink of an eye, it covered an area of a few miles. Great Void Steps. Yi Fei was not stupid enough to fight an invincible martial king alone. He snorted coldly and tore open the void with his bare hands to return to the Northern Sea Pass. Who would have thought that when he used the Great Void Steps, he would meet with a huge barrier, and he would not be able to leave the area covered by the blood clouds? What's going on? Yi Fei's expression changed completely. If he could not leave the blood cloud, he could not return to the Northern Sea Pass to seek help from the city. He could only face an invincible martial king alone. A trace of fear appeared in Yi Fei's heart. Great satisfaction flashed across the Blood Demon Grand Commander's face. He looked at Yi Fei disdainfully and said, Kaka, in order to deal with you, I've investigated you for half a year. Do you think I don't know that you've learned the Shang clan's Great Void Steps? TSK. That's an emperor-level martial art that the Shang clan doesn't teach outsiders. You brat, how did you learn it? I really don't know what kind of luck you have." At this point, the Blood Demon Grand Commander looked at Yi Fei with a trace of jealousy and greed in his eyes. He deliberately paused and looked at Yi Fei like a cat playing with a mouse. Yi Fei naturally understood the Blood Demon Grand Commander's intention. He could not help but curse inwardly. This old demon is really shameless. He probably wants the Great Void Steps and wants me to give it to him. It's not that easy. Sky Destroyer Sword. Yi Fei roared angrily. Since he cannot teleport out, he might as well use his sword to tear open the blood cloud. A huge black hole appeared above Yi Fei's head, and he grabbed it with his bare hands. The black hole suddenly turned into a huge sword-shaped crack and slashed towards the sky. Rumble. The blood cloud churned like boiling water. The Blood Demon Grand Commander was shocked. For the first time, his expression turned serious. It's actually the Great Emperor's sword technique? Could it be that you used this sword technique to kill Blood Yiksha? No. Even if it's the Great Emperor's sword technique, you can't kill Blood Yiksha. You must have some secrets on you. Hand over your secrets, and I can consider keeping your corpse. The Blood Demon Grand Commander's eyes were cold. His entire body suddenly turned illusory and turned into a blood-red meteor. He ruthlessly crashed into Yi Fei's sword light. Heaven's Burial Stance. Yi Fei did not dare to be careless. He instantly pushed his 70% sword intent to the limit. A pitch-black sword light with a terrifying black radiance slashed forward in an attempt to imprison the Blood Demon Grand Commander's body. Lawless. The Blood Demon Grand Commander shouted coldly. It was unknown what technique he used, but his body suddenly turned illusory. His entire body merged with the boundless blood pool. He actually managed to avoid the imprisoned power of the Heaven's Burial Stance. At the same time, a blood-red python suddenly appeared in the blood cloud. It was ferocious and ferocious. It fiercely bit onto Yi Fei's black sword light. The spatial sword formed by the black hole was completely devoured by the python. The Sky Destroyer sword has actually been broken. Shock flashed across Yi Fei's face. At his level of strength, he already knew that the Great Emperor's sword was not invincible. It also had its flaws. However, it was difficult for an ordinary martial king to discover these flaws. So far, Yi Fei had only seen two people who could break the Sky Destroyer sword. One was Lin Tianjiao, and the other was the Blood Demon Grand Commander. Oh no, I didn't expect this demon to have such terrifying fighting strength that is not inferior to Lin Tianjiao's. Yi Fei couldn't help but exclaim. Yi Fei continuously retreated, looking extremely frightened. It was as if he had been frightened by the Blood Demon Grand Commander. However, secretly, Yi Fei was sneering. Yes, with his current strength, he was indeed no match for an invincible martial king. However, it wasn't as if he didn't have anything to rely on. After all, he still had two sacred weapons on him. One was the Phoenix Blood Sword, and the other was the Taboo Armor. As long as he had these two items, he wouldn't be afraid even if Wu Jun, a martial king of the first stage, came over. However, Yi Fei was somewhat hesitant. Although the Phoenix Blood Sword can allow me to fight against an invincible martial king, I'm still not strong enough to kill the Blood Demon Grand Commander. Also, the Taboo Armor can only be used once. If I use it now, I won't have any means to protect myself if I encounter danger in the future. Yi Fei was very hesitant. Just as he was hesitating, the blood cloud in the sky was suddenly blasted apart by a bare hand, revealing the clear sky. Chapter 5:25. Earth-penetrating bigwig when this figure appeared, Yi Fei jumped in fright. This was because he could sense an aura that was even more terrifying than the Blood Demon Grand Commander's. Was that Wu Jun's aura? No, this isn't Wu Jun's aura. Yi Fei shook his head fiercely. He had seen titled Wu Jun before. For example, the Sword Maniac Elder and the Northern Ocean King were both titled Wu Jun. They also had Wu Jun's aura. However, their auras wouldn't give Yi Fei such a strong pressure. If the Northern Ocean King's Wu Jun's aura was like a burning torch, then the gray-robed man who suddenly appeared in the sky gave people the feeling that his entire body was burning. Just now, it was this gray-robed man who, with his shocking chi and blood, slapped the terrifying blood cloud that even the Emperor's sword art couldn't handle, was slapped into pieces. Yi Fei's eyes flashed with a hint of shock. He quickly dismissed the idea of taking out the Phoenix blood sword and the forbidden armor. He had a vague feeling that even if he took out these two items, he definitely wouldn't be able to withstand the gray-robed man's casual attack. Squeak, squeak. In the beast-marked space, Xiao Chao felt the aura of this gray-robed man. His little face instantly showed a terrified expression. He kept gesturing, urging Yi Fei to run away as fast as possible. Yi Fei couldn't help but feel even more shocked. Seeing Xiao Chao's terrified expression, how could he not know that Xiao Chao must know this gray-robed man? If he guessed correctly, this gray-robed man might be the earth-penetrating bigwig who fought for Xiao Chao in the northern Heavenly King City more than a year ago. He was a super expert of the 11th level of the Martial Saint realm. Titled Wu Jun? How could there be such a powerful titled Wu Jun in the northern domain? Senior, please give us some face and don't interfere with the blood demon sex matters. Seeing the gray-robed man in the sky, the blood demon grand commander, who had been arrogantly toying with Yi Fei like a mouse, was now like a mouse. His body was trembling. He could feel the old man's undisguised coldness and hostility. In his panic, he quickly mentioned the blood demon sect. Although the blood demon sect was hated by everyone in the central continent, in other regions, especially the northern domain, the blood demon sect was very powerful. Unexpectedly, the gray-robed man did not pay any attention to him at all. His cold eyes only sized up Yi Fei. You are Yi Fei. What is your relationship with a person called Wang Bai? Wang Bai. That's... Yi Fei's heart stirred as he loudly said, because when he saw this gray-robed man, he suddenly remembered that the person who sent the letter to the Wang mansion was also a gray-robed man. Thus, Yi Fei decided to make a bold bet. Undoubtedly, he made the right bet. The gray-robed man's expression changed when he heard Yi Fei and Wang Bai call each other brothers. His cold eyes were suddenly filled with fear that didn't match his status. What? You can actually call someone like that brother? So that's how it is. Good. Young man, don't be afraid. I'm not shy of the southern domain. I'm a martial saint of the 11th level. I don't mean you any harm. Nachai put away his indifference and suddenly looked at Yi Fei with an amiable expression. In order to prove his sincerity, he even pointed at the blood demon great commander and said, Little friend Yi Fei, how do you plan to deal with this person? I'll do as you say, senior. Yi Fei's expression didn't change, but he was very nervous. Nachai was the martial saint of the 11th level, the martial saint of the southern domain who fought for Xiao Chao. Such a super expert could sweep the entire northern domain. If he found out that Yi Fei had the Ganoderma doll with him, as you wish. Nachai could feel that Yi Fei was very nervous, but he didn't think too much about it. He just thought that Yi Fei was frightened by the aura of the martial saint of the southern domain. He immediately retracted his aura and pointed at the blood demon commander. No, the blood demon commander despaired. When he heard that the gray-robed man was a martial saint of the southern domain, he was so scared that his legs trembled. But it was useless. With just a point of his finger, the powerful blood demon commander's body exploded into ashes. He couldn't be any more dead. This made Yi Fei even more terrified. Even an invincible martial king could be killed with a single point of his finger. If this gray-robed man were to make a move on him, no, he definitely couldn't let this happen. He had to immediately show his stance. Therefore, Yi Fei quickly stepped forward and thanked him loudly. Thank you for saving my life, senior. I'll definitely report this to my elder brother, Wang Bai. The gray-robed man looked deeply at Yi Fei. He didn't fall for it. Instead, he said coldly, Brat, don't try this on me. With your little strength, how can you casually talk to such an existence? I said that I wouldn't do anything to you, so I definitely won't go back on my words. Then, senior's return means. Yi Fei was a little confused. It seemed that the gray-robed man had some complaints about Wang Bai. Humph, I returned because that existence calculated that a disaster might befall you in 3 years. He specially asked me to send you a letter and give you some pointers, Nachai said. Give me pointers? Senior, you met my elder brother, Wang Bai. Where is he? Is he doing well? Yifei called him elder brother, Wang Bai, very smoothly. Even though he knew that Yifei was bluffing, Nachai's face still twitched. He looked at Yifei and hesitated for a while. A faint trace of fear flashed across his face. Nachai shook his head with an ugly expression and said, I'm sorry, I don't have any memories of that existence. I only remember that when I risked my life to barge into the northern region 3 years ago, I was unconscious for a period of time. Then, the memory of sending you a letter appeared in my mind. Now that I've delivered the letter, my mission can be considered completed. I can finally leave this damned northern region. As he spoke, Nachai had already tidied his clothes. He ignored Yi Fei's shocked expression and knelt down in the air. His face flushed red. He shouted toward the sky. Wang Bai, you're the most handsome. He shouted, but there was no response. Nachai's face turned red with anger. He resisted the urge to vomit and shouted again. Wang Bai, you're the most handsome. Wang Bai's the most handsome person in the world. What? Before Nachai finished shouting, Yifei was already in a daze. Of course, Nachai was the most embarrassed. He was a mighty figure, but he was forced to do such a shameful thing in front of Junior. After shouting 3 times, Nachai was about to vomit blood. Fortunately, after Nachai shouted 3 times, a series of mysterious runes suddenly appeared on his body. He turned into a stream of light and dissipated in the sky. Chapter 5:26. The world is big. Shut up. You can't say a word about what happened today. Do you understand? Sensing that the runes controlling him had finally disappeared, the first thing Na Guai did was stand up angrily and stare fiercely at Yifei. Yifei's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He could only pretend not to understand Na Guai and ask, Senior, what are you talking about? I don't remember what happened just now. Boy, you know what's good for you. Na Guai barely suppressed his anger. Then he remembered something and said coldly, I almost forgot. That existence also said that you must go to the land abandoned by the heavens. What? The land abandoned by the heavens? Wang Bai also knows about the land abandoned by the heavens? Who are you, Wang Bai? Why are you helping me? Yifei was shocked. A terrifying thought suddenly appeared in his mind. Could it be that when Wang Bai left the Taishan sacred ground, he had already calculated my future and arranged everything in advance? If that was the case, then this brother of his was too heaven-defying. Seeing Yifei's uncertain expression, Nachai didn't need to ask to know what Yifei was thinking. He immediately shook his head in annoyance and said, Kid, I advise you not to think about it. Even a powerful figure like me was forcefully pulled into the northern region before I could see that existence. I was even controlled for 3 years. What can you, a martial king kid, think about? Hey, didn't you enter the northern region by yourself in search of a treasure? Yifei probed calmly. Na Guai looked at Yifei in surprise. You know that I came here in search of a treasure? Ahem, the battle between 2 powerful figures on the southern mountains has spread throughout the entire Beiyang country. If the 2 of you weren't here in search of a treasure, I can't think of any other reason, Yifei said ambiguously. I see. Na Guai was relieved. He didn't have time to explain further to Yifei. He just nodded slightly and said, Boy, I've delivered the letter. You and I have nothing to do with each other anymore. For the sake of that existence, I won't make things difficult for you. You can go. I can't go back to Nanjiang. I can only cross the ocean and go to Zhongzhou. With that, Na Guai turned to leave. Hearing that Na Guai was going to Zhongzhou, Yifei's eyes suddenly lit up. He quickly stopped him and said, Senior, please wait. If you want to go to Zhongzhou, can you help me deliver a letter? How dare you? Junior, don't push your luck. Nasai was furious. It was one thing to be inexplicably controlled by Wang Bai to deliver a letter, but Yifei also wanted him to deliver a letter. What did these 2 people mean by this? They actually treated him, Che Di, as a messenger? However, after his anger subsided, Na Chai's heart skipped a beat. He curiously asked, "Are you going to reply to that existence? If so, this old man can do it for you." Cough, cough, it's not Wang Bai. Yi Fei was very depressed. He didn't even know Wang Bai's identity or where he lived. What the hell was he supposed to deliver a letter for? "I'm delivering a letter to my little sister. My little sister has been taken to the Star Moon Holy Land. If Senior is on the way," Yi Fei said cautiously. After all, he was asking for help. Most importantly, the one doing this was an earth-shattering bigwig, a super expert of the 11th level of the Martial Saint realm. That had slightly angered him. Yi Fei might be annihilated. Na Guai was shocked upon hearing this. "What did you say? You have a little sister who has joined the Star Moon Holy Land? How is that possible? Isn't it said that you can't leave the northern domain until you reach Wu Jun?" "Senior, what do you mean?" Yi Fei was very shocked upon hearing this. "Hey, didn't your seniors tell you that the northern domain is different from other domains? Outside martial practitioners of Wu Jun and above cannot enter. Of course, if your northern domain martial practitioners don't reach Wu Jun's level, they can forget about leaving." Na Guai explained calmly. He couldn't help but look at Yi Fei in a higher light. After all, Yi Fei was able to make friends with a mysterious expert like Wang Bai and had a little sister who could join the famous Star Moon Holy Land in the Central Continent. This made Na Guai a little more patient to talk to Yi Fei. Otherwise, a ground-shattering almighty would be able to do whatever he wanted. How could he speak so much to a mere martial king like Yi Fei? Na Guai didn't explain too much. Instead, he looked at Yi Fei sympathetically and said, "Boy, it's not that this old man wants to discourage you, but since your sister has come to the Central Continent, her talent is definitely shocking. Your talent isn't bad and could be considered a genius in the northern domain. However, in our southern border, your talent can only be ranked at the middle level. As for the Central Continent, there are monsters everywhere. Your talent can only be ranked at the bottom. At best, you're just an ordinary genius." Yi Fei was very unconvinced. "Don't tell me that I can't go to the Central Continent because my talent is low." Na Guai's words were as hateful as the woman who took his sister away. You're still not convinced? Do you think that you're amazing for breaking through to the 8th layer Martial King realm at such a young age? Na Guai looked at Yi Fei with disdain and attacked him mercilessly. "Then let this old man tell you. In our southern border, the most ordinary genius is at least in the 8th layer Martial King realm at your age. If you have a little talent, it's not impossible for you to step into the Saint King realm." Saint King realm. Yi Fei's heart shuddered violently. Indeed, since he had forced Lin Tianjiao to back off, he had thought that he could be on par with the strongest geniuses of the northern region. However, after hearing Na Guai's words, he finally realized how terrifying it was to have a genius stronger than him in this vast world. While he was still feeling joyful about breaking through to the 8th layer Martial King realm in half a year's time, even the most ordinary genius of the southern border had a cultivation similar to his. What about the Central Continent? What about the geniuses of the Central Continent? Yi Fei suddenly bowed deeply toward Na Guai and asked humbly. Na Guai glanced at Yi Fei in astonishment and nodded slightly. "Not arrogant or impatient. Kid, you have a good temperament. Unfortunately, you don't have a unique physique. Second grade Tian ranked Martial King realm is your limit. However, in the Central Continent, a Tian ranked Martial King realm talent is only the beginning of becoming a genius. When I was young, I was the same as you. Young and impetuous, I went to the Central Continent with the intention of making a name for myself. Unfortunately, when I arrived at the Central Continent, I realized what it means to be a frog at the bottom of a well and overestimate one's capabilities. The Central Continent is too powerful. It's normal for the geniuses there to break through to the Martial Emperor realm from the Martial realm in a year's time. There are even more powerful monsters. It's said that when they were born, they were already in the Martial King realm. A portion of their ancestors were extremely powerful super monsters. When they were children, they had already reached the level of Martial Lord or even the level of absolute Earth Almighty. Compared to them, no matter if it's you or me, we can only raise our heads and look up. Young man, work hard. In this life, we are destined to not be able to compare to those monstrous geniuses in the Central State. What we can do is to honestly take every step we take. Maybe in 100 years, maybe even longer, when you break through to my level and become an almighty, maybe you can go to the Central State, be an ordinary warrior, and enjoy your life. Chapter 5:27. Saint Bodhi, young man, maybe we can meet again in the Zhongzhou Plains in 100 years, provided that you don't die. Na Chai shook his head and soared into the sky. Like a shooting star, he tore open the void and dashed out of the northern region and into the vast ocean. Watching Na Chai leave, Yifei was unable to calm down for a long time. Only after 100 years, and becoming an absolute master, would he be able to gain a foothold in the Zhongzhou Plains? The power of the Zhongzhou Plains finally made Yifei realize how insignificant and weak he was in the world of martial arts. She seemed to have sensed Yifei's disappointment. Xiao Chao quietly ran out from her hiding spot and patted Yifei's head like a little adult. She comforted Yifei by patting his head as if she was patting a pet. Yifei suddenly felt depressed. How could Xiao Chao comfort him like this? But Yifei was not in the mood to argue with a little girl. After all, Yifei would never give up until he had tried, and risked his life. So what if the Zhongzhou Plains is powerful? If I want to go, no one can stop me. 100 years is too long. In 3 years at most, I will become a titled battle pet warrior, Wu Jun. Then, I will go to the Zhongzhou Plains and find my sister. Yifei clenched his fists. His eyes were filled with terrifying determination. Squeak, squeak. Xiao Chao sat on Yifei's shoulder and patted Yifei's head, comforting Yifei and telling Yifei to work harder. Yifei did not notice that when the Zhongzhou Plains were mentioned, a rare look of melancholy appeared on Xiao Chao's young face. But soon, Xiao Chao became as cheerful as Yifei. She could not wait to point to a place in the distance and babbled something. Yifei had known Xiao Chao for a long time. Soon, he understood what Xiao Chao meant. Needless to say, the dead blood demon commander must have some kind of treasure on him to make her so excited. However, Xiao Chao, are you sure that person has some kind of treasure on him? It was not that Yifei did not believe Xiao Chao. It was just that the blood demon commander's death was too tragic. An unrivaled martial king realm expert was killed by a finger-tap shot, and his body was blasted into a bloody mist. Blood demon commander. Moreover, even the blood demon commander's space bag was taken away by Na Chai when he left. Even if this demon really had some kind of treasure on him, how could it escape the eyes of absolute ground? Yifei was very doubtful, but he could not bear to stop Xiao Chao's excitement. So, he walked unhurriedly in the direction Xiao Chao was pointing. This made Xiao Chao very anxious. She pulled Yifei's ear and grabbed Yifei's hair. Then, she began to babble as if she was riding a horse. Yifei could not help but feel even more depressed. After all this time, in Xiao Chao's heart, I'm just a horse. Where's Xiao Chao going? After walking forward for a while, Yifei found that Xiao Chao's hand was still pointing forward. This finally made him curious. Could it be that the treasure that Xiao Chao discovered wasn't on the blood demon commander's body, but somewhere else? But thinking about it, if this demon really had some kind of treasure on him, how could it escape the eyes of an almighty like Yifei? I just don't know what kind of treasure Xiao Chao found. Yifei unconsciously began to speed up. Soon, he followed Xiao Chao's directions and arrived at a hidden cave. This cave was very well disguised. The inside had been set up as a secret realm by a 10th-layer martial king. A 10th-layer martial king near Beihai Pass. Could this be the blood demon commander's lair? Yifei's eyes lit up. He unceremoniously broke through the secret realm with a punch and walked in. The scene inside gave him a fright. The ground was littered with the corpses of martial king experts. They had all died less than half a year ago. What a blood demon sect. In order to assassinate me, This blood demon commander actually hid in Beihai Pass for half a year. He even secretly killed so many martial king experts. After recovering from a shock, Yi Fei covered Xiao Chao's eyes with his hand and said, "Xiao Chao, don't look." The scene was simply too bloody. Even though Yi Fei had experienced many battles, he still felt a sense of disgust as he looked at the rotting corpses. Xiao Chao was so scared that his face turned pale when he heard Yi Fei's words. He closed his eyes tightly and slipped back into the beast mark, not daring to stay outside any longer. On the other hand, Yi Fei suppressed his disgust and searched for something among the corpses on the ground. In any case, he had dealt with the Blood Demon Church countless times. Since the Blood Demon Commander had killed so many martial king experts, it was most likely to be to nurture the blood bodhi that was unique to the Blood Demon Church. As expected, this Blood Demon sect is really heartless. There really is a blood bodhi here. This isn't a blood bodhi. Why does it have the aura of the divine path? Yi Fei quickly found a strange plant in the middle of the corpses. Rather than a plant, it looked more like a broad, golden Buddha's hand. In the middle of the Buddha's hand, there was a round, white fruit. It looked exactly like a blood bodhi, but it was different from the blood bodhi's aura of blood and resentment. This white fruit gave off an auspicious and majestic Buddha's aura. In contrast, the white fruit in the Buddha's hand was as dazzling as a pearl. An hour later, Yi Fei finally found what he was looking for. It was a stone room behind the secret realm. It should be the place where the Blood Demon Commander usually cultivated. In the stone room, Yi Fei found a cultivation manual. Coincidentally, there was information about the white bodhi recorded in it as well. So that white bodhi is called the Holy Bodhi. It's a treasure of the Blood Demon sect that's even more precious than the Blood Bodhi. Usually, only commanders are qualified to guard the Holy Bodhi, Yi Fei said in surprise. According to the manual, there were a total of 12 Holy Bodhi in the Blood Demon sect, each representing one of the 12 heavenly demons. At the same time, the Holy Bodhi had a special characteristic. After absorbing a large amount of blood and resentment, the Holy Bodhi would be contaminated. On the basis of the Holy Bodhi, it would continuously produce impure Bodhi like the Blood Bodhi. It was this impure Bodhi that formed the Blood Demon sect's bloodiest spiritual medicine, the Blood Bodhi. Every mature Blood Bodhi had the potential to help a cultivator break through to the martial king realm. As one of the 12 commanders of the Blood Demon sect, their mission was to bring the precious Holy Bodhi to various places and hunt down martial king experts. Then they would use their flesh and resentment to continuously contaminate the Holy Bodhi. In this way, they would continuously use the impurities of the Holy Bodhi to form evil Blood Bodhi, helping the Blood Demon sect to develop and strengthen. No wonder the Blood Demon sect was hated by everyone in the Central Province and was forced to develop in the Northern region. I didn't expect the evil Blood Bodhi to be produced in this way. I'm afraid even Master didn't expect this. After reading the cultivation manual in his hand, Yi Fei's eyes instantly fixed on the Holy Bodhi that was still being contaminated. His eyes became brighter and brighter. Chapter 528. Leave? Of course, Yi Fei could only think about it in his heart. With his terrible flower Dao skills, it would be a miracle if he could keep the spiritual herbs alive, let alone speed up their growth. But he couldn't stop the fact that Xiao Chao, a flower saint expert, was hiding in Yi Fei's body. The rarest thing was that Xiao Chao was still a plant. If she could help the spiritual herbs grow faster, then Xiao Chao was undoubtedly the best candidate. Ahem, Xiao Chao, let's discuss something. Do me a small favor, and I'll take you out shopping when you're free. What do you think? After walking out of the cave, Yi Fei called out Xiao Chao and acted as if he cared about Xiao Chao. Xiao Chao didn't say anything and only looked at Yi Fei with disdain. Was she like a child who could be easily tricked? But that was shopping. To be honest, it was safe to stay in the beast mark space every day, but Xiao Chao was also bored. Xiao Chao began to make gestures again. This time, The gestures were very vivid. Colorful spiritual winds flashed in the air and finally condensed into strings of candied haws. Xiao Qiao didn't say anything and only stared at Yi Fei with her big black eyes. She even bit her little hand as if she was wronged. This time, the gestures were too specific. It was so specific that Yi Fei understood at a glance. Xiao Qiao actually wanted to eat candied haws. Damn, she was a Lingji doll. Could it be that she could eat secular things? Wait, I've never told Xiao Qiao about this before. Why did she suddenly want to eat candied haws? Could it be, did Little Black say something to you? Other than himself, the only other person who knew about Xiao Qiao's existence was his lazy flood dragon, Little Black. Needless to say, this lazy dragon must have led Xiao Qiao astray. Yi Fei suddenly regretted raising a flood dragon for no reason. That guy ate more than all the people in the Sword Prince's mansion combined in one meal. The most important thing was that he was a bad influence on Xiao Qiao. The only thing that made Yi Fei happy was that Xiao Qiao only wanted to eat tonghalu and not other expensive delicacies. All right, tonghalu, right? When we find a mortal city, I'll buy as much as you want. But this holy Bodhi, Xiao Qiao, take a look. Yi Fei took the opportunity to take out the holy Bodhi. Xiao Qiao patted her chest and said confidently, "Leave it to me." Then, she waved her glowing little fists and made a series of gestures. However, the gesture this time wasn't as vivid as the candied hawthorn. Yi Fei stared at it for a long time before he finally understood. Xiao Qiao was saying that it was possible to cultivate the holy Bodhi, but she needed a large amount of spirit stones. The higher the quality, the faster the holy Bodhi would mature. Of course, if Yi Fei was patient, he could wait 180 years for the holy Bodhi to mature quickly. Hearing Xiao Qiao's words, Yi Fei was so depressed that he almost vomited blood. 180 years. He would probably wait until his hair turned white. Xiao Qiao, can't you use spirit stones instead? Yi Fei was very depressed. Xiao Qiao shook her head firmly and spread out her hands, indicating that she couldn't do anything without spirit stones. Damn it, it seems that I have no choice but to go out and train. Yi Fei finally gritted his teeth and decided to leave Sword King Mansion now. After talking with Na Chai, Yi Fei completely understood how big the gap was between him and the geniuses of Zhong Province. If he didn't work hard now, when would he? Most importantly, he needed a lot of spirit stones to cultivate the holy Bodhi. Before the Devil Emperor had left, he had said that the current martial heaven continent was in a state of decline. Spirit stones were a very common cultivation resource in the heavenly devil continent, but they had been completely exhausted for who knew how many years. Those remaining spirit stones had either been excavated from the secret realms of the ancient sages or accidentally passed down from other continents. Martial artists didn't even need enough spirit stones to cultivate, not to mention large amounts of spirit stones to nurture spirit herbs. Now that Yi Fei had obtained a large amount of spirit stones, the only way was to go out and experience all kinds of fortuitous encounters. I remember that the Devil Emperor said that the stronger a martial artist's karmic luck, the greater their chances of obtaining good karmic luck. For example, those monstrous geniuses with the aura of emperors all have great karmic luck. They might have a small chance every 3 days or a large chance every 10 days. As for those monstrous geniuses, it's said that they can casually step on a rock and pick up a precious spirit stone. Thinking of those monstrous geniuses' karmic luck and then looking at himself, Yi Fei felt even more miserable. He knew that staying in the Sword King Mansion would no longer be beneficial to his cultivation base. He immediately returned to the Sword King Mansion. Originally, he had wanted to say goodbye to Yi Jian and the others. But thinking about it, that would only increase his sadness. It was better to leave quietly. And so, Yi Fei left behind a letter and told Xiao He to properly protect the Sword King Mansion. Yi Fei had already stealthily left the Northern Sea Pass with Xiao Qiao, rushing toward the border of the Northern Sea Pass. There's still over 2 years until the heavenly Forsaken Land opens. I can take advantage of this time to go to the other countries of the northern region and look for some spirit stones. Yi Fei was secretly making plans. Just as he was about to bring the holy Bodhi out for training, he was about to leave. In a certain mortal town in the far reaches of the northern region. In this town, every household worshipped a strange statue. This statue looked like a human, but not a human. It looked like a beast, but not a beast. It had a ferocious face, but had blood-red wings like a beast. It held a steel fork, looked up at the sky, and let out a silent roar. The residents of the town were used to coming here every day to worship the statue and pray for peace. But on this day, something that shocked the entire town happened. For some reason, one of the 12 statues that they worshipped day and night suddenly collapsed. Everything happened too suddenly. Everyone felt that it was inconceivable, and then they panicked. What's going on? Why did the statue collapse? Could it be that we angered Lord Azura and attracted the wrath of God? Lord Azura, please calm down. We pray devoutly day and night without stopping. Roar. After that, everyone was speechless. This was because an extremely furious roar could be heard from the entire town. Who killed one of my great commanders and destroyed the sacred Bodhi's restrictions? Investigate this thoroughly. Even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground, you must take the sacred Bodhi back. Roar. Following the release of this voice, ferocious figures in blood-red robes with red eyes suddenly appeared in the air of the town and quickly rushed in all directions. In a secret small world under the town, a Wujun powerhouse with a terrifying aura was leading hundreds of blood-robed martial kings in fear and trepidation. They knelt in front of a huge blood pool and kowtowed desperately. Young master, please forgive me. This old man has already sent out a large number of people. We will definitely retrieve the lost holy Bodhi as soon as possible. Trash, good for nothing. In the northern region, where there are no almighties, you actually lost my most important sacred Bodhi. Immediately send orders to the other captains to stop nurturing the blood Bodhi. Have them send the remaining 11 sacred Bodhi back as quickly as possible. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.